Chapter 1184. After that, Medusa ceased all activities. The new Medusa's killing formation was never erected again. Obviously, this method of slaughter consumed too much energy. Moreover, there were no more areas with dense human populations, so Medusa would use another method. But he believed that it would take some time, because Medusa needed to recover her energy and spirit. In fact, Yang Dingtian had never understood how Medusa turned an astronomical number of humans into fossils. This did not conform to Yang Dingtian's understanding of energy at all. Even a demigod Naga would not be able to kill so many humans if she used up all her energy to slaughter. Moreover, to Medusa, there was no difference in the amount of spirit energy used to turn a saint-level powerhouse and a civilian into a fossil. In other words, in front of Queen Medusa, a saint-level powerhouse was no different from a farmer. Therefore, this must be another method of slaughter. It was definitely not the current mainstream method of using energy to destroy another energy life form. It should be some kind of energy reaction. Moreover, Yang Dingtian believed that Medusa did not rely on her spirit and energy to complete this slaughter. Naga Shuang said that even if she broke through to become a demigod, she could still kill point to point from thousands of miles away. But Medusa's slaughter radius was actually 7,000 miles, and it was a complete slaughter without any blind spots. Not even half a human would survive in the entire fan plane. This was unbelievable. Moreover, after the slaughter, the entire space was still shrouded in energy, and any human who entered would still be turned into a fossil. The entire area was completely covered in death energy, which was even more terrifying than nuclear radiation. Yang Dingtian could not feel this energy, but he did feel it. Because the southern barbarian continent had been continuously experimenting. The eyes of the Medusa statue in central continent had been closed for more than 10 days, and the slaughter had stopped. Every 3 hours, the southern barbarian continent would send a death row prisoner to the area covered by Medusa's killing formation. Although the slaughter was over, and the eyes of Medusa's killing formation were closed, the death row prisoner still turned into a fossil. However, the time it took for these prisoners to turn into fossils was getting longer and longer. The most recent data that Yang Dingtian obtained was 17 minutes. It would take 17 minutes for this death row prisoner to be completely turned into a fossil in the area covered by the Medusa's killing array. In other words, the energy of Medusa's killing array had been depleting. Moreover, this had nothing to do with the distance of Medusa's killing array. Regardless of whether one was close to the statue or far away, the special energy enveloping them was the same. This experiment was very inhumane. It was approved by Yang Dingtian personally. Most of the time, he was the one who completed it. He wanted to know what kind of effect Queen Medusa's massacre would have on the entire human kingdom. Would it affect the survival of mankind in the future? From the looks of it, there was an impact, and it was a very, very big one. Even though the terrifying energy that shrouded the human nations had been weakening, it would take a very long time for it to completely disappear. Schwanger, according to your speculations, is it possible for Queen Medusa to use her own energy to complete this massacre? Yang Dingtian asked. Impossible? Naga Shuang said. Killing all the humans within 150 million square miles within 6 days. Moreover, the killing range is 7,000 miles. This is simply impossible. The amount of energy required is astronomical. Husband, if I want to kill someone from 1,000 miles away, the amount of energy required is more than 1,000 times that of killing someone from 1,000 miles away. This is because I don't have a soul sword. I can't let the soul sword fly for 1,000 miles before killing the target. I have to directly release an energy arrow to kill it. As the distance increases, the energy will continue to weaken. Yang Dingtian understood that this was like high-voltage electricity. As the distance increased, the energy loss would also increase. Naga Shuang said, I have roughly calculated that Medusa has completed a killing array. If it is purely from the perspective of energy, it would require more than 100 pinnacle demigods. Yang Dingtian immediately understood what Naga Shuang meant. If a demigod Naga flew out and massacred a large area by herself, the amount of energy required would be much smaller. However, Medusa's killing array, which covered 150 million square miles in one go, would require more than 100,000 people. Naga demigods would need more than 100 pinnacle demigods. Queen Medusa only had one demigod. After completely releasing it, she would need to condense it again. Naga Shuang said. Therefore, we can be sure that Queen Medusa used a special spiritual power to control a very, very powerful energy to complete this massacre. This energy definitely did not come from the human nations. Yang Dingtian nodded. At present, the human nations could not possibly have such a huge source of energy. Naga Shuang said. Next, she probably won't raise another Medusa's killing array. Instead, she will use another method to kill the remaining humans. If I'm not wrong, Shimin Ningning must have thought of a possibility at that time, so she desperately ran away, trying to escape to a place where Medusa could not find her at all. Yang Dingtian nodded in understanding. He could indeed guess what Medusa's next move would be. No matter the reason, it seemed that Queen Medusa was unwilling to show up, or perhaps she could not show up. However, she and her daughter, Shimin Ningning, were completely connected. In other words, she could transfer part of her energy to Shimin Ningning, then control Shimin Ningning to complete the next precise massacre. Ningning thought of this terrible scene, so she desperately ran away. Schwanger, 3 Medusa's killing arrays should have exhausted all of Queen Medusa's spiritual power. Yang Dingtian said. Then, how long do you think it will take for her to recover? Naga Shuang said. Husband, she doesn't need to fully recover. As long as she recovers 20 to 30%, she can start the next precise massacre. Yes, that was indeed the case. Naga Shuang said. Based on my race's memory, Medusa's complete spiritual recovery seems to range from 800 to 1300 days. Yang Dingtian said. You can't measure Medusa like that. She should be especially powerful. Moreover, she only needs to recover 20 to 30%, so the time will be very short. Therefore, I feel that the time she gave us is at most half a year. Naga Shuang said. I agree. Yang Dingtian said. Schwanger, in the soul-leaving temple's energy stronghold, I can see Medusa in an illusion. If I'm not wrong, that energy stronghold is like a signal tower that can gather and receive energy signals from Medusa tens of thousands of kilometers away. Yes, husband. Naga Shuang said. It's like the TV signal tower when you were young, and like the radio in the early days. Naga Shuang and Yang Dingtian were completely telepathic at this time. Unlike Yang Dingtian, she would read Yang Dingtian's memories almost whenever she was free, not letting go of any privacy. Yang Dingtian, on the other hand, rarely took the initiative to read her memories. Therefore, she knew almost everything about Yang Dingtian on Earth. Yang Dingtian said. Then is it possible to capture the energy signals from Medusa, reverse engineer them, and locate Medusa's location? Yes. Naga Shuang said. I said before that as long as we break through to demigod, we will definitely be able to meet Medusa. The method you mentioned is the most direct. Capture her energy trajectory directly and reverse engineer it. We will find her in about a few seconds. Yang Dingtian asked. Do we have to break through to demigod? Naga Shuang said. Husband, Medusa sends energy signals from tens of thousands of kilometers away, or even across plains to the soul-leaving temple stronghold in the human countries. The energy stronghold then captures and amplifies them. That's why you can meet Medusa in an illusion. This energy signal is very weak, and it needs to be condensed and amplified by the energy stronghold. Therefore, when you chase the energy trajectory in reverse, the energy you release will continue to weaken, and it will have to travel tens of thousands of kilometers, or even across several planes. If we don't become demigods, with our current cultivation, it will completely weaken in less than a few thousand kilometers. Understood. He had to break through to demigod to find Medusa's location. Only by finding her could he get rid of her. Naga Shuang said. This is because we have already intercourse, which is why we have a huge advantage. Because we mean 2 demigods. In the words of Earth, 1 plus 1 is greater than 2. Half a year. Queen Medusa would only give him half a year at most. At that time, she might control Shiman Ningning and enter the human countries, or even the Empire of Darkness, to carry out a precise massacre. Yang Dingtian couldn't let this happen. In this short month, Yang Dingtian could only completely ignore the countless humans who had turned into fossils and been killed. As long as he thought of the countless human fossils in his mind, his heart would even stop for an instant, and then shrink into a ball, as if this could alleviate the pain in his heart. Despite the fact that many of them had once opposed Yang Dingtian, scolded him, rebelled, and attacked the Radiant Parliament was still in the limelight. But in this great calamity, all humans should be the target of his protection and rescue. He had already saved a large number of them, but he had still lost so many. In the future, if the humans he had already protected encountered another calamity, Yang Dingtian suspected that he would collapse. Because that would prove that everything he had done was worthless. His struggles over the past 10 years, the sacrifices and struggles of countless elites of the Council of Light, would become meaningless. Schwanger, break through to demigod in half a year. You can use any means, light or dark, Yang Dingtian said. Is there any way? Any way? No. Naga Shuang was resolute. Then Naga Shuang said, Husband, it's not just the human countries, but the entire chaotic world. The only place where you can break through to demigod is the Dark Throne of the Dark Kingdom. Even the remaining ruins of the old Naga Empire can't do it. The energy pressure is not enough. Yang Dingtian said, Schwanger, don't forget that I still have 2 energy gems. These are the 2 eyes on the Medusa trap guarding the ruins of the Naga Empire. In the past hundreds of thousands of years, they have devoured an unimaginable amount of energy. Not long ago, they devoured 4,900 future generations of Naga who were close to demigod. Naga Shuang said, I know, husband. Our minds are connected. Of course I know of their existence. Yang Dingtian said, Even these 2 energy gems can help us break through to demigod? Naga Shuang said, Of course it's enough. It's enough for 10 or even 100 of us to break through to demigod, let alone the 2 of us. This Medusa trap was guarding the borders of the Naga Empire, and had existed for millions of years. When the Naga Empire was still around, one of the gems had to be removed every 1,000 years to release its energy in the Naga Empire. After the fall of the Naga Empire, it hasn't been removed or released for at least 10,000 years. Therefore, the amount of energy contained in these gems is astronomical. Yang Dingtian took out an energy gem from his space ring. He really couldn't feel the existence of any energy at all. He couldn't imagine how such a small energy gem could contain such a huge amount of energy. Naga Shuang said, Husband, size no longer matters to these 2 energy bodies. Because its interior is also a huge independent space. It's like a sea of energy. Its interior can be a space of tens of thousands of miles. Yang Dingtian was very clear about this point. Naga Shuang said, And in fact, these 2 gems aren't products of the Naga Empire. They were left behind by you in the ancient era. Immediately, Yang Dingtian was completely astonished. She had originally thought that these 2 gems were created by the Naga Empire. She didn't expect them to be from the ancient era. Yang Dingtian asked, Then, is there no way to devour the energy in them? Naga Shuang said, Previously, in the Naga Empire, dozens of powerful Naga demigods were needed to open this energy gem each time. It was opened bit by bit, and released bit by bit. How could the 2 of us open it? Yes, such a huge amount of energy was condensed in this crystal. Yang Dingtian could imagine that it was completely impossible for her to open it. And even if she could open it, the only result would be that the human kingdoms within tens of thousands of miles would be completely destroyed, and the great cataclysm would come ahead of time. Because the energy inside was just too shocking. Just the 4,900 Naga demigods were more than what the human kingdoms could withstand. But now, the path was very clear. In the entire chaotic world, only the Dark Throne of the Empire of Darkness could break through to the demigod realm normally, but it would take more than a few hundred years. If she wanted to break through to the demigod realm in a short time, she could only devour these 2 ancient energy bodies. But it was impossible to open it, and even more impossible to devour its energy. But now, at this time, anything that was impossible had to be tried. Conventional thinking was impossible, but if she changed her way of thinking, there might be a breakthrough and a surprise. Yang Dingtian said, "Schwanger, I've decided. In the following time, our only mission is to study how to open these two ancient energy bodies and how to devour them." Naga Shuang said, "Yes, you're a male. You have the final say." Then Naga Shuang said, "Husband, you already have a direction, right?" Yang Dingtian said, "I vaguely have a direction. You said that it's not a product of the Naga Empire, but of the ancient era. Perhaps it's a product of tens of millions of years, or even longer. In that case, if we want to open it and devour it, we first have to know what it is." Naga Shuang said, "Husband, according to your boldest guess, what is it?" Yang Dingtian said, "I'll find the answer right away. Schwanger, wait for me. I believe that we'll know what it is soon." Then Yang Dingtian turned into a stream of light and flew toward the west. Naga Shuang immediately knew where Yang Dingtian was going. That place could indeed find the answer, and even the method of opening and devouring. Chapter 1185. Where was Yang Dingtian going? The Forbidden Continent Illusion. This was because almost all of the epochs could be encountered in the Forbidden Continent's illusory realm. Therefore, regarding these two ancient energy bodies, he believed that he could find the answer in the Forbidden Continent illusion. Yang Dingtian flew to the Forbidden Continent's sea area as fast as he could. At this moment, there was no one guarding the crucial door of the human kingdom. Yang Dingtian immediately rushed in and immediately appeared in the Forbidden Continent's illusion realm. As if there was a memory archive, when Yang Dingtian first entered, it was still the progress of a few years ago. The entire chaotic world was in the sixth era. What Yang Dingtian had just entered was the boundless sea. In the depths of the sea, there were an astonishing number of giant beasts. Not only at the bottom of the sea, there were also giant beasts flying in the air. At that time, Yang Dingtian would have been killed instantly by these giant beasts. But now, Yang Dingtian was completely at ease. Of course, he wouldn't be stupid enough to attack these giant beasts. Because these prehistoric giant beasts were all incomparably huge, but they only had infinite strength. They couldn't spit fire or electricity at all. If Yang Dingtian wanted to kill these giant beasts now, it would be a piece of cake. But what he needed now was to observe. Moreover, Yang Dingtian was still cultivating here, so it was still useless. He directly turned invisible and flew all the way to observe the sixth era of the prehistoric giant beasts. Because the space-time speed here was already very, very slow, many years here was only equivalent to a day in the human kingdom. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had a lot of time to observe this world. However, he didn't find anything different about this world. It was even similar to the legendary ancient Earth. In the sixth era, species were already very, very rich. Whether it was animals or plants, they already had the embryonic form of the entire world's species. Even though the prehistoric giant beasts were the overlords of the entire world. But the impact on other animal species wasn't great. The entire world was a very complete biological chain. The order of nature would solve everything. The prehistoric giant beasts killed each other, and the war was endless. But they were all fighting with strength and teeth. Although there were countless casualties, it wouldn't lead to a mass extinction. Furthermore, Yang Dingtian had already discovered that there was more than one type of monkey. During the Jurassic period on Earth, dinosaurs ruled the forests, the sky, and the sea. And in the case world of the sixth era, the prehistoric behemoths also ruled the skies, the lands, and the seas. On Earth, legend had it that the impact of a meteorite had caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. But in the chaotic world, no one knew what caused the extinction of the prehistoric giant beasts. That was because they were probably the first generation overlords of the primal chaos world. They were definitely extinct. Yang Dingtian had been flying in the sixth era for 1 or 2 years, but he didn't find anything out of the ordinary. He also didn't find anything related to the two ancient energy bodies in his hand. Thus Yang Dingtian left the sixth era. Once again, they arrived at the dark void. The floating tower shuttled through the void. It represented the passage of time. In the endless void, Yang Dingtian could faintly see the figure of the fallen divine dragon again. It was still very blurry, faintly discernible. Soon, Yang Dingtian shuttled through millions of miles of the dark void. Soon, Yang Dingtian entered the seventh era. When he just entered, it was still the endless ocean. In the distance, it was still the endless forest. Soon, Yang Dingtian was discovered by a flying prehistoric giant beast. It rushed over. Yang Dingtian didn't care. Instead, he quickly flashed away to avoid it. Boom! At this moment, the flying prehistoric giant beast suddenly spewed out flames that soared into the sky. Separated by a few hundred miles, the soaring flames arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye. The temperature was more than tens of thousands of degrees. Yang Dingtian was stunned. In the last era, these prehistoric giant beasts only relied on their teeth and claws. They fought with brute force. How did they learn to breathe fire at this time? Moreover, Yang Dingtian quickly calculated the energy level of this flying giant beast in the air. Separated by a few hundred miles, the flames spewed out could still exceed tens of thousands of degrees. Moreover, it was just the temperature at the edge. Through simple calculations, Yang Dingtian came to the conclusion that the energy level of this flying giant beast was about the 27th order. Getting this answer, Yang Dingtian was stunned. A 27th order monster had completely surpassed the most powerful magic fire demonic phoenix. What exactly caused these monsters to have these changes? Just as Yang Dingtian was surprised, a terrifying shadow beast suddenly shuttled over from the side. Pa! It abruptly spat out a shocking bolt of lightning, which was several hundred kilometers in length, and viciously struck the body of the monster from before. Then, a fire-breathing beast and a lightning-breathing beast fought fiercely. Moreover, Yang Dingtian also found that this lightning-breathing beast was very similar to the night owl. It could be learned that it was the ancestor of the night owl. Yang Dingtian hid on the side and watched the two monsters fight. About half an hour later, the result came out. The fire-breathing beast was defeated and killed by the lightning-breathing beast. Then, the whole corpse was eaten alive by the lightning-breathing beast. Yang Dingtian hid and continued to fly forward. They discovered that the originally peaceful Sixth Era had already changed beyond recognition. Countless giant beasts were fighting crazily. The war between the giant beasts was everywhere. The attacks of wind, lightning, water, and fire destroyed countless forests and killed countless species. The entire world of the Seventh Era was in shambles. Moreover, in addition to eating leaves and meat to fill their stomachs, these monsters loved all kinds of stones more. Yes, they were just stones, not crystals. At most, they were some special ores. Yang Dingtian picked up all kinds of stones and found that they did contain all kinds of energy. However, it was very chaotic and the content was not high. These giant beasts were eating almost all the time. And Yang Dingtian found that the war between the giant beasts was completely for these special energy stones. Whether it was the bottom of the sea, mountains, forests, or snow, as long as there was an energy stone mine, it would all become the battlefield of the giant beasts. Moreover, Yang Dingtian also found a very interesting thing. That was, after these giant beasts ate these energy stones, they only took what they needed. The energy they did not need would be excreted as feces. And in these feces there were countless transparent powders. Yang Dingtian washed these powders and found that they were actually the original form of crystals. These discoveries made Yang Dingtian a little excited. However, he still did not get what he wanted. What he wanted to find were the two ancient energy crystals. Although, in the Seventh Era, the existence of energy had been discovered. But, regarding the two ancient energy bodies, he still did not find anything. Then, Yang Dingtian entered the Eighth Era. Yang Dingtian was completely stunned. He was stunned by the world of the Eighth Era. He was shocked to find that all the giant beasts had disappeared. As the overlords of the chaotic world for 2 generations, they were completely extinct. And Yang Dingtian had no idea how they became extinct. There were still many species on the ground. And the overlords of the 8th era had also appeared. They were actually humans. That's right, humans had actually become the overlords at this time. Of course, humans at this time looked very strange. Their limbs were thin and long, and their heads were huge. They were either hairy all over or naked all over. But without exception, everyone's eyes were very big, like a particularly bright crystal. In short, the humans of the 8th era were very ugly. Of course, these were not the reason why he was shocked. What made him completely shocked was the incomparably prosperous and brilliant civilization of the 8th era. The civilization of the 8th era was not only more prosperous than the human countries, it even surpassed the modern Earth. There were human cities everywhere, not only on land, but also in the sea. There were countless super metropolises. There were even huge cities floating in the sky and huge pyramids everywhere. What shocked Yang Dingtian's heart was not only this. What shocked him the most was that the world of the 8th era was completely a world of energy civilization. There were huge spaceships in the sky and huge propellers on the ground. Every one of them was driven by energy arrays. Every spaceship, every huge building, and every huge pyramid was an individual energy array. Then, Yang Dingtian also witnessed the war of this world. It was completely filled with fantasy and science fiction. There were no human soldiers at all. All of them were huge spaceships shooting energy lights at each other in the sky. There were war chariots on the ground and energy warships in the sea. Here Yang Dingtian also saw something. That was dark matter that could devour everything. It was dark matter that completely enveloped the Empire of Darkness and devoured the ancient Sea Serpent Empire. It was completely indestructible and could ignore any attack. It turned out that this kind of energy matter was created by the humans of the 8th era. It was not only an extremely powerful weapon, but also a powerful defense. Yang Dingtian was shocked to see that in the 8th era, the superpowers of the sea and the land were engaged in an earth-shattering war. As for the land, they activated a huge dark matter energy barrier to defend against any attack from the sea. At this moment, Yang Dingtian completely understood. The Empire of Darkness that Wentian discovered back then, the Empire of Darkness that was protecting tens of millions of humans, was created by the humans of the 8th era. In Yang Dingtian's opinion, the Empire of Darkness was incomparably huge and majestic. But in the 8th era, the scale of the entire Empire of Darkness was not worth mentioning at all. In the 8th era, the human empires spanned across the sea, the land, the sky. Every space spanned hundreds of thousands of miles. The entire Empire of Darkness was at most a big city in the 8th era. Or rather, it was a military camp. It could also be a refugee camp. In short, it wasn't a real city. The shock in Yang Dingtian's heart was indescribable. He didn't expect that the humans were actually the second-generation overlords of the primal chaos world before the Naga era. The humans here didn't have any martial strength. They were even much weaker than the current human countries. However, their energy civilization was tyrannical to the extreme. Their utilization of matter had reached the extreme. In fact, the power they grasped was enough to destroy the entire world many times over. Yang Dingtian knew that the 8th era had also perished. Almost none of the ancient humans were left. Then, how did it perish? Yang Dingtian didn't have the time to think about this for now. What he wanted to find was the two energy bodies in his hands. He flew through many cities invisibly, but he still couldn't find any traces of these two energy bodies. He was unwilling to give up and kept flying, searching. However, he soon flew to the edge of the human civilization. He actually flew to a barren land. This area wasn't big, spanning tens of thousands of miles. However, this area was already on the verge of death. It was roughly the same as the first and second dark domains. Yang Dingtian knew that this was the result of the first great nirvana annihilation. The expansion and war of the first-generation overlords, the energy beasts, had led to the first great nirvana annihilation. It formed this dark domain that spanned tens of thousands of miles. Not only the dark domain, Yang Dingtian also saw the embryonic form of the abyss border. This should be the first abyss border of the chaos world. The abyss border was born to devour the vitality continent. However, Yang Dingtian soon discovered that the abyss border here was actually motionless and did not devour the vitality continent. He couldn't help but be surprised. Therefore, he released the void-splitting fire and entered the abyss border to investigate. After entering, Yang Dingtian was completely stunned, because the abyss border here was completely different from what Yang Dingtian had experienced. After being refined by the void-splitting fire, it was still a transparent crystal. However, in the absolute transparency, there was a huge dragon, roaming and flying in the abyss border. This dragon was very, very huge, spanning hundreds of miles. Its appearance was almost completely the appearance of a fallen divine dragon. This was not what shocked Yang Dingtian. What shocked him was the dragon's two eyes. Each eye was incomparably huge, with a diameter of more than hundreds of thousands of meters. And if Yang Dingtian was not mistaken, the eyes of this huge dragon roaming in the abyss border were the eyes in Yang Dingtian's space ring. These two ancient energy bodies were the two eye gems in Medusa's trap. In terms of shape, they were exactly the same. The light they released was like two suns, exactly the same as when Medusa set the trap. Yang Dingtian let out a long sigh of relief. Naga Shuang also let out a long sigh of relief. The answer was found. These two ancient energy crystals were actually the eyes of the fallen divine dragon in the abyss border. This discovery was indeed shocking. No wonder it was so powerful that it was suffocating. Chapter 1186. Even in the illusory realm of the taboo continent, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang were telepathically connected. Shuanger, the two energy bodies in my hands are actually the eyes of the fallen divine dragon, Yang Dingtian said. However, Naga Shuang fell into a short silence. What's wrong? Shuanger, Yang Dingtian said. Naga Shuang said. Husband, this doesn't make sense. Yang Dingtian said. Shuanger, you know that the fallen divine dragon has always been seducing different species. From the prehistoric beasts to the humans of the 8th era, to the Naga, the Fox Demon clan, and the Silent clan. The fallen divine dragon has never stopped seducing the races of the chaotic world, and many of the races it seduced have become the absolute overlords of the entire world. So, how did the fallen divine dragon seduce the races of this world? Perhaps these two eyes are the answer. Naga Shuang said. Husband, think about it. Any race that is seduced by the fallen divine dragon will become powerful. But they are all powerful in terms of martial strength. Whether it is the prehistoric beasts, the Naga clan, or the Fox Demon clan, there is no exception. However, you see that the humans of the 8th era are very weak in terms of martial strength. They became the overlords of the chaotic world entirely because of their intelligence. Yang Dingtian was stunned. Yes, Naga Shuang was right. The humans of the 8th era were the absolute overlords. Although Yang Dingtian did not know how they developed, there was no doubt that there was no race in the entire chaotic world that could fight against them. Shuanger, once the demigod Naga clan and the 8th era's humans start a war, who will win and who will lose? Yang Dingtian asked. Naga Shuang was silent for a moment and said, Husband, I don't know. Because I don't know how far the 8th era's human civilization has developed in the illusory realm. Is it the middle stage or the peak stage? But if it is only at this stage, the Naga Empire can still win. However, if human civilization continues to develop, the Naga Empire may lose. Yang Dingtian. Shuanger, if your guess is correct. The humans of the 8th era did not rely on the fallen divine dragons to become the overlords of the world. They relied entirely on their own wisdom. Then, what does this have to do with whether or not these two energy bodies are the eyes of the fallen divine dragon? Naga Shuang said. Husband, the two energy forms in your hands are very powerful. However, it doesn't seem to be qualified to be the eyes of a fallen divine dragon. Although Naga Shuang had no evidence to back up her claims, Yang Dingtian could vaguely sense this. Although these two energy bodies contained an astronomical amount of energy, as the eyes of a fallen divine dragon, they still seemed to be lacking. Moreover, it was unlikely that the fallen divine dragon's eyes had been gouged out. In fact, the fallen divine dragon might not even have a body, so there were no so-called eyes. Yang Dingtian. Shuang'er, what do you think these two energy bodies are? Naga Shuang'er said. Husband, have you noticed? The abyss border you see has stopped, and is quiet. It has not been devouring the living continents. Yang Dingtian could not help but recall carefully, and it was indeed so. Every abyss border that Yang Dingtian had seen, even if it was a temporary one, was constantly devouring. At this moment, the abyss border was absolutely still, as if it was not functioning at all. At first glance, this did not seem to be anything, but upon further thought, it was very terrifying. The abyss border was the most powerful place in the entire chaotic world, devouring everything. Now, it had actually violated its own laws and stopped devouring. Naga Shuang said. The humans of the 8th era were very, very powerful. They also discovered this abyss border and devoured the living continents day after day. It was the greatest crisis of the chaotic world. Therefore, they wanted to stop this and stop the abyss border from devouring. I don't know how they did it, but it's obvious that they did it. Yang Dingtian nodded. Naga Shuang continued. Therefore, according to my conjecture, the dragon you saw at the abyss border was fake, a pseudo-divine dragon. It was an energy body created by the humans of the 8th era and placed at the abyss border to prevent the abyss border from spreading and protect the living continents. Yang Dingtian was astonished. Was this giant dragon a fake? It was created by the humans of the 8th era? These two energy bodies were the eyes of the pseudo-divine dragon? Were they also created by the ancient human civilization? Naga Shuang said. In order to prove this point, husband, why don't you stay here and observe for a while? Yang Dingtian nodded. Following this, Yang Dingtian stayed at the abyss border all the time. Sometimes he was in the dark realm, sometimes on the living continents, and sometimes on the abyss border. In any case, many years here were only a few days in the outside world. Just like that, he waited here every day. Time passed day by day, month by month, year by year. Of course, this kind of absolute waiting time was not unbearable. Because it was very likely that he would get the most useful answer, and also the unveiling of a huge mystery. At least during this period, he learned a trick. That was, completely purify the abyss border at the beginning and then jumped in. After entering the abyss border, immediately shrink the void cracking fire to only about 1 cubic meter of essence. In this way, not only was it absolutely safe, but he could also observe the inside of the abyss border and move freely in the abyss border. This was something that he couldn't do before no matter what he did. The most important thing was that he saved a lot of mystical chi. Finally, one day, Yang Dingtian arrived. On this day, Yang Dingtian was in a small purification space, wandering the entire abyss border. Suddenly, 2 incomparably huge energy formation castles flew over from afar. They were really, really huge, more than tens of thousands of meters in diameter, as tall as mountains. It was more similar to the Dark Castle in the Empire of Darkness, but much more advanced. Inside the Dark Castle, it was dark, but this huge flying castle was completely brightly lit. Then, these 2 huge flying castles floated at the edge of the abyss border. Then, a huge light energy formation was activated, producing a strong suction force. Then, Yang Dingtian saw the giant dragon roaming at the abyss border slowly fly up. It left the abyss border, and was slowly sucked into the energy formation under the huge castle. And as soon as this giant dragon left, the abyss border immediately recovered its original function, constantly devouring the vitality of the continent, constantly spreading, and constantly nibbling away. Naga Shuang's inference was correct. It was indeed a pseudo-divine dragon, created by humans at that time. Its body was made of a special kind of energy. It could be seen but not touched. Only its 2 eyes were energy bodies, but they actually existed. It was between an energy body and a material body. 2 huge energy bodies took out the pseudo-divine dragon's 2 eyes. Each eye was a huge energy ball with a diameter of hundreds of meters. Then, one of the flying castles stretched out a huge snow-white energy probe over thousands of meters long. Yang Dingtian felt that this probe was very similar to the one in the Celestial Palace. Then, from the other flying castle, a huge energy probe also stretched out. It was the same size, but it was black. The pseudo-divine dragon's huge eyes floated between the two probes. Suddenly, boom, 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 the two probes violently struck, emitting an incomparably powerful energy. A ray of black energy and a ray of white energy suddenly pierced through the two energy bodies and met in the middle. Boom, 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 boom. They kept colliding. Yang Dingtian didn't even know how much energy was inside. That was because the energy released by each attack was from the flying castle's attack. Boom! The last earth-shattering collision. Subsequently, Yang Dingtian discovered that the energy bodies of the two eyes were merely connected together. And in the middle of them, there was a faintly discernible dark energy door. Then, a few humans floated out, drilled into this dark energy door, and disappeared from sight. At this time, Yang Dingtian was floating on the surface of the abyss border. The top of his head had been purified like a transparent crystal. Thus, he was able to see everything clearly. Dozens of humans entered the energy body space. This lasted for several hours. Only then did these people leave. Then, the two probes retracted. The dark energy door closed. Two huge energy tentacles put the two huge energy bodies back into the pseudo-divine dragon's eye sockets. Then, this giant dragon flew back into the abyss border and continued to roam. Then, the swallowing and spreading of the abyss border immediately stopped. After everything was done, the two huge flying castles left. Schwanger, you guessed right. These two energy bodies in my hands are indeed products created by humans in the 8th era, Yang Dingtian said. They are the pseudo-divine dragon's eyes, Naga Shuang said. Husband, did you see it just now? The two castles stretched out black and white probes and opened an energy door. Then these humans entered the energy bodies for maintenance, Yang Dingtian said. I saw it, Naga Shuang said. If I'm not wrong, the amount of energy in these two pseudo-mystical dragon eyes is an astronomical figure. The terrifying swallowing force released by the abyss border was all absorbed by it. But every once in a while, it has to be cleaned inside to prevent it from overloading and losing its function. Yang Dingtian nodded. The humans in the 8th era were really awesome. They could even resist the abyss border, Naga Shuang said. Moreover, the energy contained in these two energy bodies is astronomical, so they can't be opened. Once opened, the energy bursts out and is completely destructive. So, they opened an energy door between the two energy bodies and entered. This is because the two energy bodies are of the yin and yang dual attributes. When the energy door is in the middle of the two energy bodies, it will reach a balance, and the energy inside will not overflow. So, there won't be an earth-shattering explosion, Yang Dingtian said. Yes, so we have to find a way to open an energy door between these two energy bodies and then enter to devour. Devour the endless energy inside. Yes, Naga Shuang said. Okay, husband, you can come out. Yang Dingtian was stunned. He wanted to go to the next era. He wanted to know how the human civilization in the 8th era was destroyed. How did the demigod Naga rise? But there was one thing that proved that although the human civilization in the 8th era was destroyed, the genes of the demigods were very important. However, the fallen divine dragon valued the genes in their bodies very much. Therefore, every time he created a demigod race in the future, he would borrow human genes. Although the humans in the later generations were not so smart. But it was clear that the ancient human genes still existed in their bodies. Naga Shuang said, Husband, if the next era is the rise of the Naga Empire, you will be in danger. Then you will be in great danger. No matter how fast you fly or how invisible you are, you will not be able to escape the Naga's pursuit. Although you won't really die in an illusion, the damage to your brain and spirit will be huge. Also, we've got the answer we want. I think you can come out. Yang Dingtian felt that Naga Shuang was right. He said, Okay, I'll come out. Then, Yang Dingtian flew to the starting point of the 8th era. He shuttled back and forth in the void between the 8th and 7th era. Soon, Yang Dingtian left the illusion of the taboo continent and returned to the Skull Hall. At this time, he couldn't leave through the door of the human kingdom. Yang Dingtian had to go back through the Little Western Paradise. Opening the door of the Little Western Paradise, Yang Dingtian flew into the Little Western Paradise. After entering the Little Western Paradise, Yang Dingtian almost immediately saw the incomparably beautiful and huge statue of Medusa in the distance. His heart suddenly trembled, and he felt a chill. He thought that Medusa only killed humans, but he didn't expect that the Demon Fox clan would be killed as well. The killing formation of Medusa, which was tens of thousands of meters tall, stood quietly in the center of the Little Western Paradise, as if it was sneering at him. Yang Dingtian quickly flew into the city of the Little Western Paradise. Sure enough, there were countless fossils. All the demon foxes, whether in human form or demon fox form, had all turned into stones. They were densely packed, countless, and lifelike. Fortunately, hundreds of thousands of demon foxes had already retreated to the Empire of Darkness in advance. Otherwise, the demon fox clan would have been completely extinct. But soon, Yang Dingtian made another discovery. Although all the demon foxes in the city had turned into fossils, but many demon foxes in the mountain were still there. As Yang Dingtian flashed around, he discovered plenty of demon foxes that were hiding and shivering. These demon foxes were very low level, and their bloodline was also very low. They were all in fox form, but they still had some intelligence. Yang Dingtian didn't disturb them, but left quietly. He entered the Buzhou Mountain domain, opened the space door, and entered the torn space. Then, he passed through the torn space and entered the human kingdom. Finally, Yang Dingtian came to the ruins of the Sky Demon City, melted the dark matter, and entered the Empire of Darkness. He entered the Celestial Palace. At this time, the Naga Shuang also stopped devouring energy. Yang Dingtian took out the two energy bodies. Now that he knew its origin and the amount of energy it contained, it was enough for him to break through dozens of demigods. He also knew that the only way to devour it was to enter it. Then, the only thing left to do was to find a way to open an energy door between the two energy bodies. Yang Dingtian suddenly said, "Shuang'er, in the illusion mirror, I saw that it was yin and yang energy. It violently collided and opened an energy door. This is very similar to the way I create the space door." Shuang'er said, "Husband, these two energy bodies are a separate plane space. So it is a space door, but it is not only a space door, it is also similar to the dark energy door created by the void-splitting fire. Because when the Naga Empire didn't have the greater space technique, dozens of demigods Naga could extract power from these two energy bodies." Yang Dingtian nodded. That was indeed the case. Then, he said, "There's no time to lose. Let's start trying to open the space door between these two energy bodies now. The sooner the better." Chapter 1187. Yang Dingtian immediately used the greater space technique to try to open a spatial door between the two energy bodies. Without a doubt, he failed. Next, Yang Dingtian opened a fiery void gate, but he also failed. Then, Yang Dingtian combined the fiery void gate and the spatial door. Although it was very difficult, Yang Dingtian still managed to do it. First of all, he opened another spatial portal in the fire-split void gate. After failing, he opened a spatial rift in the middle of the spatial rift. All of them had failed. All of his attempts had failed. Naga Shuang said, "Husband, this energy body is far more complicated than we imagined. Perhaps we have to do exactly what we saw in the Forbidden Continent's illusion to open a door to enter this energy body." Yang Dingtian recalled the two flying castles in the Forbidden Continent's illusion. They each had two energy probes, and then wildly spat out energy to collide with each other. Moreover, the black and white energy had penetrated the energy body and collided with each other in the middle, creating a door to enter the energy body. Yang Dingtian said, "In the illusion, the two huge flying castles were very similar to the dark castle here, but they were not the same. Moreover, there are no energy probes in our dark castle." Naga Shuang said, There are no energy probes in the Dark Castle, but there are in the Skirich Imperial Capital. Then, she looked up at the top of the Celestial Palace. A huge probe probed from top to bottom. It was at least a few hundred miles long. Compared to the probe in the illusion, it was many times larger. Yang Dingtian said. But there is only one probe in the Skirich Imperial Capital, and it is colorless and transparent. Naga Shuang said. Husband, this Skirich Imperial Capital is far more complicated than you think. In fact, it is not just what we are showing now. It does have two yin and yang probes. Yang Dingtian's eyes narrowed. Why do you say that? Naga Shuang replied. Because I have second-level control over the Throne of Darkness, I have a deeper understanding of the Skirich Imperial Capital than you do. Yang Dingtian asked. Then do you have a way to get the second energy probe out now? Naga Shuang said. No, in fact, I separated the yin and yang dual elemental celestial palace, including the yin and yang dual elemental energy probe. Yang Dingtian was surprised. Separate? Although the entire celestial hall looks black, that is because of the Empire of Darkness background. In fact, it is colorless. It's a combination of yin and yang, and it can separate yin and yang. Naga Shuang continued. However, it's a pity. Splitting the yin and yang energy of the celestial hall is the highest authority of the Throne of Darkness. I'm unable to do it. Only Wentian alone can do it. Yang Dingtian was really stunned. He really didn't know anything about this. Yang Dingtian was stunned and immediately fell into hesitation. Yang Dingtian no longer doubted Wentian's position. However, he was once a spiritual puppet of the soul-leaving palace, so Medusa might have left a mark in his mind. Even if Medusa couldn't control Wentian's will, she might be able to probe his vision. In that case, everything that Wentian experienced would be known to Medusa. Wentian was worried about this, so he sealed himself in ice early. He didn't want to give Medusa any chance to take advantage of him. Now, should he awaken Wentian? Should he take the risk? Naga Shuang didn't say anything. She quietly waited for Yang Dingtian's decision. To be honest, she didn't care at all. Although she wanted to break through to the demigod realm, she didn't care about the safety of the remaining humans. However, she had been mentally connected with Yang Dingtian for a long time. Therefore, she could empathize with Yang Dingtian's feelings. Shuang, do you think Medusa can see everything through Wentian? Yang Dingtian asked. Naga Shuang said. Husband, this is my opinion. Medusa can see everything through Shimin Ningning. Moreover, she can directly control Shimin Ningning's will. Because they are mother and daughter, they share the same energy. Although their mother-daughter relationship is different from our husband-wife relationship, they are the same in some aspects. It's just that they are different, while we are completely sharing the same energy. Yang Dingtian said. Continue. Yang Dingtian could immediately guess what Naga Shuang was thinking if he used his heart to probe. However, Yang Dingtian rarely did this. He preferred to communicate with others. On the other hand, Naga Shuang liked to directly read Yang Dingtian's mind. Naga Shuang said. Wentian was once a spiritual puppet of Medusa. Therefore, Queen Medusa must have left a spiritual imprint in his brain. This is without a doubt. These spiritual imprints are like a Trojan horse hidden in the brain. They can steal the memories and consciousness of the spiritual puppet. It seemed that Naga Shuang had read almost every inch of Yang Dingtian's memory. She even knew about the computer Trojan horse. Naga Shuang continued. However, this spiritual imprint is the same as the Trojan horse program on Earth. After it steals the information, it can only contact the hacker's master through the network and transmit the stolen information to its master. The so-called network should be the energy base of these spiritual puppets when they enter the soul-departing palace. Not every place can be connected to the soul-departing palace. Yang Dingtian nodded and said. That makes sense. Naga Shuang said. This is only my guess. I can't guarantee it. The decision still needs to be made by my husband. Yang Dingtian nodded and said. I know. I have already made my decision. Open the energy gate to Wentian's secret room. Yes. Naga Shuang sat on the dark throne and opened an energy gate. Yang Dingtian directly flew out and entered the secret room where Wentian was. After draining the unfreezing water, he released Wentian's spiritual seal, mystic meridian seal, and energy sea seal. Soon, Wentian woke up. When he saw Yang Dingtian, he couldn't help but be startled and said, "What's wrong?" Yang Dingtian said, "I need your help." Wentian said, "Are you sure? You should know that the soul departing palace left an imprint in my brain." Yang Dingtian said, "I know, but I have to do this." Wentian immediately stood up and said, "Okay, let's go." Then, he directly flew towards the celestial palace. He naturally knew that Yang Dingtian only needed his help with one thing, and that was to use the highest authority of the Throne of Darkness. Because to Yang Dingtian, this was currently Wentian's greatest and only use. After entering the celestial Great Hall, Naga Shuang had already left. Wentian directly flew to the Throne of Darkness and sat down. Yang Dingtian opened his mouth and wanted to tell Wentian about this matter. "No, don't tell me anything," Wentian said. "You just need to tell me what I should do." Yang Dingtian was startled and then nodded. Wentian was very cautious. This was for the sake of confidentiality. This was also a form of trust. Yang Dingtian said, "Please use the highest authority of the Throne of Darkness to separate the yin and yang of the celestial palace." Wentian's eyes narrowed and said, "The energy consumption might be very, very large." Yang Dingtian said, "There's no other way." Wentian nodded and said, "Okay." Then, his entire soul and consciousness completely merged into the Throne of Darkness. He used the highest authority of the Throne of Darkness to separate the yin and yang of the celestial palace. Then, Yang Dingtian saw an incomparably magnificent and incomparably strange scene. The entire celestial palace and the huge energy probe were slowly separating the yin and yang. It was just like the separation of the spatial rending fire that Yang Dingtian saw. From the transparent flame, it became black and white. The entire celestial palace seemed to have become a shadow. From being colorless, it became black and white. It was as if the black and white shadows of the celestial palace were originally completely overlapping, but now, they were separating bit by bit. Therefore, there were two celestial palaces, but at this moment, most of them were still overlapping. Bit by bit, they were separating bit by bit. Yang Dingtian could clearly feel that the entire Skirich imperial capital was spinning faster and faster. The energy consumption of the several continents was also increasing and increasing. In fact, Yang Dingtian could even feel the drastic changes in the yin-yang mirror, the demon domain, and the world of ice and snow. The celestial palaces were separating faster and faster. And Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang were like a completely independent third party. They were not in the black celestial palace, nor were they in the white celestial palace. Instead, they were floating in the void. Rumble! The yin and yang shadows of the celestial palace were separating with difficulty. Time passed by minute by minute. A few minutes, a quarter of an hour, half an hour, 2 hours, in the end, a full 5 hours passed. Boom! The separation of the yin and yang dual systems was completely over. Then, Yang Dingtian saw two celestial palaces and two huge probes. The one facing up was the white Yang celestial palace, and the huge energy probe was also white. The one facing up was the black Yin celestial palace, and the huge energy probe was black. The Yin and Yang dual system celestial palace, one black and one white, shared a middle floor. And this floor was still colorless. Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang were standing on this middle floor. Wentian said, "The Yin and Yang dual systems of the celestial palace have been separated. What should we do next?" Yang Dingtian, "Bring the yin and yang probes closer to each other until they are only 19 centimeters away." Wentian did as he was told. The two probes kept getting closer and closer. Finally, they were only 19 centimeters away. These two probes were both hundreds of miles long, and 19 centimeters in the middle meant that they were almost completely next to each other. Throughout the whole process, in order to keep it a secret, Wentian closed his eyes and did not look at anything. Yang Dingtian took out 2 energy bodies of the pseudo-divine dragon's eyes and placed them between the 2 probes. The diameter of the 2 energy bodies added up to 19 centimeters. These 2 energy bodies were completely next to each other and connected to the 2 probes. It was exactly the same as what Yang Dingtian saw in the illusion of the taboo continent. Yang Dingtian. The third step is to control the yin and yang probes and release energy. From small to large, the energy will collide. Wentian said. May I ask if it's the yin and yang energy of the chaos attribute, or the direct yin and yang energy? Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and recalled the scene in the illusion of the taboo continent. The yin and yang energy of the chaos attribute was completely different from the direct yin and yang energy. Of course, the consequences were also different. The direct yin and yang dual energy collision was basically a result of nothingness. The collision of the yin and yang dual energy of the chaos attribute would produce shocking lightning. The energy of the Skirich imperial capital was astonishing. Once the lightning burst out, the power was incomparably shocking. It's the direct yin and yang dual energy, Naga Shuang said. She could see everything that Yang Dingtian saw, and she saw it much more clearly than Yang Dingtian. In fact, he could even read the memories in Yang Dingtian's mind over and over again. Therefore, she was completely sure that it was the direct yin and yang dual energy. This was strange. The result of the pure yin and yang dual energy collision was basically nothingness. Even the spatial door was not directly created by the yin and yang dual energy collision. The humans of the 8th era used the huge collision of the yin and yang dual energy to activate the energy bodies. Yang Dingtian and even Naga Shuang found it hard to understand. After Naga Shuang answered, Wentian did not immediately execute it. Instead, he was still waiting for Yang Dingtian's order. Yang Dingtian. The direct yin and yang dual energy. Okay, Wentian said. Naga Shuang didn't really care about this scene. Then, Wentian controlled the entire Skirich imperial capital and began to extract the huge amount of energy from the continents. At first, he used a relatively small amount of energy. Brew, brew, brew. He injected the yin and yang dual energy into the 2 probes. Then, he suddenly collided. Boom! 2 powerful waves of energy suddenly shot out from the probes, penetrating the 2 energy bodies and colliding in the middle. Then, nothing happened. The yin and yang dual energy cancelled each other out and turned into nothingness. However, the door to the energy bodies did not open at all. Wentian continued to brew the energy and raised it to another level before colliding again. Boom! The result of the collision was still nothingness. There was no reaction. Boom! 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 They collided a total of 9 times. There was no result. Every time, the yin and yang dual energy cancelled each other out and turned into nothingness. Wentian suddenly said, Yang Dingtian, the energy has already reached a very high level. If you increase the level of energy, it might cause the Empire of Darkness to become unstable. It might even cause the energy supply to stop. Yang Dingtian understood this point. Once the energy supply stopped, the Empire of Darkness inertial rotation would stop. Even some of the remote dark castles would be directly torn apart. At this time, there were countless people in the dark castles. Once it was torn apart, the consequences would be unimaginable. Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian said, Continue. Yes, Wentian said. Then, he once again condensed the energy and raised it to another level. Brew, brew, brew. It was brewing to the extreme. Suddenly, the light of the entire firmament palace dimmed. All the dark castles in the surroundings dimmed. Countless energy arrays, countless reaction arrays, all stopped. The Darkness Empire had reached the limit of what they could bear. Now, it was very, very dangerous. If they failed this time, it would be impossible to raise the energy level again. The only result would be the destruction of the dark castles and the death of countless people. This time, if they failed again, they would have to give up. Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang looked at each other and then said, Father-in-law, this is the last time. If you fail, give up. Yes, Wentian said. Then, his consciousness suddenly moved. Boom! An incomparably powerful yin and yang dual energy shot out from the yin-yang probe, piercing through the energy body of the pseudo-divine dragon's eye and meeting in the air. Swish! An incomparably strange light. Then, an energy door appeared. In between the two energy bodies, a door appeared, directly leading to the two energy bodies. Yang Dingtian finally succeeded. They opened the door of these two energy bodies and obtained incomparably powerful energy. Breaking through to the demigod realm was right in front of them. Chapter 1188. He had succeeded. He had finally succeeded. It was exactly the same as in the Forbidden Continent's illusory realm. An absolutely balanced energy door had been opened between the two energy bodies. Using the Skirich Imperial Capital's yin and yang energies to collide could indeed open the door. The next step was to enter the energy body space and devour the endless energy. Yang Dingtian's figure flashed as he was about to enter the energy door. At this moment, the two energy balls were still less than 10 centimeters in diameter, and the energy door was only about 10 centimeters tall at most. However, the size and volume of the door no longer mattered to Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang. Naga Shuang said, "No, husband, I'll go in first." After saying that, Shuang turned into a stream of light and directly entered the energy gate. If this had happened in the past, Naga Shuang's behavior would have been easily misunderstood as greed and wanting to monopolize the energy inside. However, in reality, she was only concerned about Yang Dingtian's safety. The two of them shared a life, so she would go in first to check it out. Even if there was any danger, as long as Yang Dingtian was safe outside, she would not die. When she entered the energy body space, Yang Dingtian immediately read her vision. Therefore, everything that Naga Shuang saw, Yang Dingtian could also see. Whoosh! Like a stream of light, she rushed into the energy body space. Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang were instantly stunned. Naga Shuang had entered a yin-type energy body. The space inside was indeed incomparably huge. It was so huge that Yang Dingtian could not imagine it at all. The entire space was formed by a huge energy vortex. The energy vortex was incomparably complex, layer after layer. It was incomparably complex and exquisite. Layer after layer, and ring after ring. It really looked like the interior of a computer's CPU. It was also as complicated as the dark vortex created by the dark mystic flame when creating an isolated space. Dark vortexes of various sizes were required. In total, hundreds of thousands or even millions of dark vortexes were required. Every loop, every size, and every energy could not be wrong. Therefore, the dark vortex could also be called an incomparably complex energy machine. The interior of the energy body that Yang Dingtian was looking at was even more intricate and mysterious than the dark vortex that created the space door. There were tens of millions of energy lines that could be seen with the naked eye. These tens of millions of strands of energy were interconnected, forming an incomparably mysterious spatial world. The Naga Shuang had completely returned to its Naga form. Its body, which was hundreds of meters long, looked like a speck of dust in this space. Yang Dingtian was truly shocked. Not only that, in the center of this incomparably huge energy vortex, there was a huge energy gathering point, just like the moon. All the vortex patterns would pass through it. This moon-like energy gathering point was the core of the entire energy space. Yang Dingtian understood. After all the energy was devoured, it would pass through this complex and intricate energy vortex channel and gather at the gathering point. Then, it would be released and re-entered into the vortex channel. This was a completely sealed system. Incomparably powerful energy kept flowing in and out, maintaining an absolute balance. Even if the energy was incomparably huge, the entire space would not be destroyed or collapse. The Naga Shuang did not immediately take action to devour the energy. "Husband, the energy formation here is extremely intricate and intricate. We can't damage it at all. If we damage it, the entire space will be destroyed and collapse." At that time, the entire empire of darkness will be destroyed, the Naga Shuang said. Yang Dingtian nodded in agreement. The Naga Shuang said, "These countless vortexes are complex energy channels. Countless amounts of energy flow in and out of them. Once they are blocked, it will cause a complete collapse. Therefore, as long as we devour the energy here, the flow will be interrupted and the entire energy space will collapse." Yang Dingtian could see all of this. Not only that, but he could also see that the energy gate formed by the collision between the two energy bodies was not a spatial gate at all. Instead, when the energy of the collision exceeded a certain limit, the amount of energy per unit of time exceeded the limit of the energy body's individual meridians. In order to protect themselves, the two energy bodies closed their respective energy loops, forming a yin and yang connection. Originally, the yin and yang dual energy bodies were independent and sealed circulation systems. Now that they had been completely opened, it became a circulation system between the two energy bodies. The yin and yang energies intersected in the middle, canceling each other out and turning into nothingness. Therefore, an entrance had appeared. That's right, this so-called energy gate was not a gate at all. It was nothing more than nothingness. This was because the energy had reached its limit, so the yin and yang intersected, and the huge amount of energy turned into nothingness to release the excess energy. Therefore, using the yin-yang probe and the huge energy collision did not open any spatial gate at all. Instead, it created an energy load and activated the self-protection mechanism of the energy bodies. Therefore, these two energy bodies were nothing more than incomparably precise energy machines. In other words, these two energy bodies were now rapidly releasing their energy. Countless yin and yang dual energy were turning into nothingness and being wasted. Yang Dingtian was really amazed. Any extremely complicated and mysterious machine was, to a large extent, based on an absolutely simple theoretical foundation. For example, a computer's CPU, to put it bluntly, was a choice between 0 and 1. As for these two energy bodies, they were yin and yang. But when the two were independent, they allowed the energy to flow quickly and maintain an absolute balance. When the energy was overloaded, the yin and yang would intersect and release the excess energy. It was such a simple theory, yet it had created such a powerful energy machine. "Husband, the humans of the 8th era are really great," Naga Shuang said. "In fact, they are even more powerful than the Naga race. Because they became the overlords of the chaotic world without relying on the fallen divine dragons. They can even stop the destruction of the chaotic world," Yang Dingtian said. "Yes, now I finally know why the fallen divine dragons had to use human genes when creating the demigod race. Therefore, the so-called demigod race is simply a combination of the fallen divine dragons and humans," Naga Shuang said. "Husband, but what do we do now? The structure of the energy vortex inside is extremely complicated. Any obstruction, any damage, any influence can destroy its delicate and mysterious system and cause the entire energy body to collapse. Therefore, there is no way to devour it." Yes, although the entire energy body contained incomparably powerful energy. But no matter what point it was, it could not be devoured. Even if there was an extremely weak damage, it would cause collapse and destruction. And most importantly, all the energy channels here were sealed and circulated. There was no way to enter, let alone open a gap. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and began to think. It was definitely impossible to enter the vortex channel and devour it directly. That would interrupt the energy flow and cause it to collapse. Then, should he drill directly into the core of the energy body? Of course not. Most likely, he would collapse before he could even enter. Moreover, to enter the core, he must pass through the extremely complicated vortex energy channel. There must be a way, there must be a way. Suddenly Yang Dingtian's eyes lit up. Yes, there was a way. Now, the two energy bodies were connected, constantly releasing their own yin and yang energy, causing them to fuse and turn into nothingness. Then, there must be a vortex channel between the two energy bodies of the pseudo-divine dragon's eye. Endless yin and yang energy flowed out and mixed in the middle. Then, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang would be able to replace this intersection point. In other words, the vortex energy channels of the two energy bodies each had an interface. The two interfaces were connected together, causing yin and yang to converge. Then, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang would replace these two interfaces. Yang Dingtian would be the yang interface, and Naga Shuang would be the yang interface. In this way, the energy that was constantly being neutralized and melted was poured into Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang's bodies. However, the amount of energy that flowed out per unit of time was astronomical. Could Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang's bodies and energy reserves withstand it? After all, this was the energy of two different worlds. After devouring for more than 10,000 years, the amount of energy accumulated was extremely shocking. If Yang Dingtian and Shuang's bodies couldn't withstand it, the only outcome was that they would immediately turn into ashes. "Husband, we can't withstand it," Naga Shuang said directly. She had been reading Yang Dingtian's mind all this time. "Husband, your method is absolutely feasible," Naga Shuang said, "but the amount of energy released per unit of time by these two energy bodies is too shocking. We can't withstand it." Yang Dingtian asked. "How big is it specifically?" Naga Shuang said. "It exceeds the capacity of our profound veins by 5 times. The only outcome is that we will turn into ashes." Then Shuang'er said, "When we were in the Naga Empire, these two energy bodies had to be removed every 1,000 years. Then, a dozen or so demigods Naga would be released and devoured at the same time. But now, it has been accumulating energy for more than 10,000 years. The last time, it devoured the energy reserves of 4,900 demigods Naga. Therefore, the amount of energy released by these two energy channels is far, far beyond our limits." Yang Dingtian asked. "Is there no other way?" Naga Shuang said. "Of course there is." She revealed a rare mischievous smile and said, "Your idea is for us to block the release ports of these two energy bodies so that powerful energy can enter my body. But actually, we can connect the two ports together. This way, part of the energy will enter our energy reserves first. Most of the energy that exceeds the capacity will still pass through our bodies, merge with each other, and turn into nothingness." Yang Dingtian was startled and asked, "Is this possible?" Naga Shuang said, "Of course it is, because our bodies are now absolute energy bodies without any impurities. They may not be able to withstand the energy as containers, but they are completely fine as energy conductors." Yang Dingtian asked. "Then, how do we connect our bodies? What kind of method do we use to connect our bodies?" Naga Shuang said. "How did we merge last time? How do we connect this time?" Yang Dingtian said in astonishment. "It's not good to do that kind of thing at a time like this. All right, I'm just trying to cheer you up. It's just the most basic connection. Even a handshake is fine," Naga Shuang said. "All right, husband. You should enter the positive energy body and find the junction of the two energy bodies." Whoosh! Yang Dingtian turned into a stream of light and drilled into the other energy body. The structure of this energy body was exactly the same as Naga Shuang's. The size was also exactly the same. It was also an incomparably huge energy vortex formation. However, the one Shuang'er was in was of the negative attribute. The entire energy body was bluish-white, like moonlight. The energy convergence point in the middle was also like a moon. In the energy space Yang Dingtian was in, all the energy was fiery red. The energy convergence point in the middle was like a sun. The two of them kept approaching the junction of the two energy bodies. From the outside, the place where the two energy bodies were connected was just a single point. From the inside, the diameter of the two energy bodies was more than 10,000 miles. However, the junction couldn't be too big. Yang Dingtian and Shuang'er kept flying. Before long, they saw the junction of the two energy bodies. The entire energy body was a sealed world. The junction was an energy exit. The two exits were closely connected. Yang Dingtian saw that the diameter of the energy exit was less than 1 meter. The energy tunnel connected to the exit released endless energy. Now, what Yang Dingtian had to do was to rush over and block the exit to let the energy flow into his body. Of course, there was a time difference. Husband, as long as it lasts for 0.01 seconds, this energy can shatter our bodies and turn us into ashes, Nagashwanga said. But our bodies can still withstand it for less than this time. So, in the 0.01 seconds, we have to complete the following things. At the same time, we have to block the energy exit. At the same time, we have to hold our hands and let our bodies connect to reopen the yin-yang channel between the two energy bodies. We have to complete it within 0.01 seconds, and we have to complete it at the same time. Otherwise, there will only be one result, and that is instant death. This was completely impossible. If it were anyone else in the world, they would not be able to do it. It was impossible to complete the above actions in 0.01 seconds, let alone two people doing it at the same time. However, for Nagashwang and Yang Dingtian, it was as easy as blowing off dust. It didn't even take half the time to complete these things. They could teleport instantly. Moreover, all the actions were done at the same time. There was no problem. This was because the two of them were spiritually connected. Whoosh! The two of them turned into streams of light and easily blocked the exits of the two energy bodies. Then, the two of them held hands and connected their bodies. The whole process was completed in less than a third of the allotted time. There was no flaw in it. It was extremely painful to have such a powerful energy flow into one's body. However, everything happened too quickly. Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang didn't feel anything. In the shortest amount of time, Yang Dingtian and Shuang replaced the two energy exits and completed the fusion of the two energy bodies. Then, an endless amount of energy poured into their chi seas. Of course, less than 2% of the energy entered their sea of chi. The remaining yin and yang energies cancelled each other out and neutralized each other. The whole process was flawless. Whoosh 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 whoosh, the energy from before was like an ocean. At this time, the energy was like a vast universe, crazily pouring in. Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang's boundless sea of qi began to rise, and their cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. Chapter 1189. At this time, the energy poured into Yang Dingtian was completely according to his tolerance limit. So now, Yang Dingtian wanted to know how the energy pouring into their bodies was compared to when they were in the ruins of the old Naga Empire. Naga Shuang said, "The energy concentration is several times higher than when we were in the ruins of the old Naga Empire. The energy flow speed is countless times higher than in the ruins of the old Naga Empire." Yang Dingtian was stunned. So high. Yang Dingtian knew that the energy pouring in was higher than in the ruins of the old Naga Empire. But in terms of energy concentration, in the energy core of the ruins of the old Naga Empire, the chi hundreds of thousands of times higher was already solid and in the form of energy crystals. It should have reached the highest level. But why was the energy concentration in this ancient energy formation more than 10 times higher than in the solid chi crystals? Because of their telepathic connection, Naga Shuang immediately knew Yang Dingtian's doubts. She smiled and said, "Husband, let me give you an example. In your generation on Earth, when radio communication was first used, how many radio signals could be transmitted or received by a machine? Later, electric cables were used to transmit electronic signals, which improved by more than 100 times. Later, optical cables were used to transmit optical signals, which improved by more than 100 times." Suddenly, Yang Dingtian understood. In the human countries, ordinary cultivation was the breathing of qi, which was equivalent to receiving signals through radio. The signal per unit of time was just listening to the radio. At this time, qi energy was illusory, invisible, and untouchable. In the ruins of the old Naga Empire, directly swallowing qi crystals was equivalent to transmitting electronic signals through cables. So, images and images could be transmitted. The amount of signal transmitted per second was more than a few megabytes. At this time, qi energy was solidified into crystals. In this ancient energy formation, swallowing energy was equivalent to transmitting optical signals through optical cables. The amount of signal transmitted per second could reach more than a few terabytes. Yang Dingtian noticed the form of the energy at this time. Sure enough, it existed in the form of a special light. The humans of the 8th era were indeed awesome. They had actually surpassed the current energy limit and transformed Xianqi energy into the form of light. No, this was no longer just some profound energy. It was too narrow a description. For the humans of the 8th era, they were already able to freely convert all kinds of energy. Naga Shuang said. Therefore, there is no limit to how much energy we can devour per second. It all depends on our energy sea and profound veins. At least for now, most of the energy that entered our bodies has been wasted, more than 95%. Yang Dingtian asked. Then, according to this terrifying devouring speed, how long will it take for us to become demigods? Naga Shuang said. About 4 months. Suddenly Yang Dingtian almost suffocated. This was too heaven-defying. Originally, the human countries had already lost the opportunity to become demigods. Later, on the throne of the Empire of Darkness, they had this opportunity, but it would take more than a few hundred years. Even in the ruins of the old Naga Empire in its heyday, it would take more than a few decades to reach this stage. Now, in this energy formation, it would only take 4 months. Sensing Yang Dingtian's shock, Naga Shuang said, "What's so strange about this? In your primitive society on Earth, it was impossible to build a 100-meter-tall building. During the reign of Wu Zetian of the Middle Tang Dynasty, hundreds of thousands of people were mobilized, and it took several years to build a towering pagoda, which was only about 100 meters tall. In your modern society, a 100-meter-tall building can be completed in 2 months if it is completely modeled. Moreover, it doesn't need the national resources at all. It can be done by just one company. This is just the construction. The explosion of knowledge is even more amazing. The progress of civilization that previously took thousands of years to accumulate is now completed in less than a year." Yang Dingtian deeply agreed. Naga Shuang sighed and said, "But it's really boring to get what we've been searching for so long so easily." Yang Dingtian deeply agreed. In the human countries, the limit of cultivation at that time was infinite great master. For hundreds of years, there was no breakthrough to the saint level. Later, in the Little Western Paradise, there were a lot of saint level. This was a subversion of the energy order of the human countries. Then, in the new Naga, a lot of people who were close to the demigod level was another subversion. Now, using the energy products of the human civilization in the 8th era, the Naga Empire's model was another subversion. Every new civilization that entered a low-level civilization would cause a huge change and completely subvert the original order. All along in the known world, the ancient Naga Empire was the highest-level civilization, which was why Naga was so high and mighty. Now, in the 8th era, the energy civilization of the human race was even more powerful. Therefore, Naga Shuang also felt a sense of desolation. On the other hand, Yang Dingtian didn't feel bad at all. Because he didn't have much desire for energy. What he wanted was the continuation of civilization and the guarantee of order. Therefore, he was able to stand at the top. In this way, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang were receiving an endless influx of energy every minute and every second. Every minute, the cultivation of the two was improving. In the human countries, he still needed to use the mystic breathing technique. But now, he had no problem sleeping with his eyes closed. This was because energy was continuously entering his energy reserve. After breaking through the limit, his energy reserve would automatically change and break through. After sharing the demigod body with Naga Shuang, the feeling of nothingness every time he broke through disappeared completely. It was just a tremor in his energy reserve, and then there was no other feeling. Therefore, the so-called cultivation was really floating in the air, motionless. Just like this, time passed minute by minute, second by second, day by day. A month later, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang had broken through to the 37th level. This speed was much faster than Yang Dingtian had imagined. 2 months later, the cultivation of the two had broken through to the 42nd level. And the energy was still pouring in madly, and the breakthrough of the cultivation did not slow down at all. After 3 months of devouring, the cultivation of the two had broken through to the 46th level. It was 3 days before the 4th month was due. Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang suddenly shook violently, and then their entire consciousness and spirit turned into nothingness. It was as if a nuclear bomb had exploded in their brain and energy reserve. After a long while, only then did he gradually regain his senses. They had broken through to the demigod level. They had finally broken through to the demigod level. Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang had finally broken through to the so-called demigod level. That's right, at this time, the word so-called must be added, because this demigod was also a name given to themselves by the Naga. To a large extent, it was a kind of arrogance and ignorance. If the Naga Empire was a demigod nation, then what was the human civilization of the 8th era, even though they were very weak in martial arts? In other words, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang had successfully broken through to the 50th level, and it was the Naga level 50. After breaking through to the 50th level, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang continued to devour. At this time, there was still a month before Yang Dingtian thought it would take half a year. And at this time, more than 79% of the energy surging out of the energy formation had been devoured by the two's energy reserve. When 100% of the energy had entered the two's energy reserve without any wastage, the speed of their cultivation breakthrough would continue to slow down. Sure enough, 19 days after breaking through to the demigod level, 100% of the energy surging out of the energy formation of the two pseudo-divine dragons' eyes had been devoured by Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang. At this time, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang's cultivation were at the 52nd level. Following that, their cultivation breakthroughs became slower and slower. The agreed half a year was up. Both of their cultivations were fixed at the 53rd step. The 53rd level, the almost magical 53rd level. First, they had destroyed the ruins of the old Naga Empire, then used the energy bodies of the human civilization of the 8th era. Naga Shuang had only spent a few years to break through to the demigod level. As for the Naga in the ancient Naga Empire, it would take more than a few hundred years at the fastest. And Yang Dingtian's role in this breakthrough was crucial, because he had found the right direction and went to the illusory realm of the taboo continent. In the mirror image of the ancient civilization, he had found this bizarre breakthrough method. Civilization determined everything. Using wisdom to break through was far more powerful than using force. Shuanger, let's stop here, Yang Dingtian said. The promised world has arrived. I should go out. Naga Shuang was a little reluctant. Even if the speed of cultivation had been greatly reduced, it was still many times faster than when they were on the throne of darkness. Compared to the pyramid energy distribution plan in the ruins of the ancient Naga Empire, it was more than 10,000 times faster. In her opinion, even if Medusa's spiritual power recovered and she gave the energy to Shimeningning, controlling her will to kill the surviving humans, it was nothing. So what if they all died? That was more important than devouring energy and breaking through. But she didn't say anything in the end. Moreover, this ancient energy formation needed 2 people to devour. She couldn't do it alone. Okay, Naga Shuang said. But husband, with our cultivation levels, we may not be Medusa's match, Yang Dingtian said. I know, but as long as we find Medusa's trace, she will stop killing the remaining humans and immediately make us her primary target. Naga Shuang nodded and agreed with Yang Dingtian's statement. But she still said, if necessary, we can enter this ancient energy formation again to devour. There is still a lot of energy left. This is almost the only way for us to break through. I know, Yang Dingtian said. Then, the two of them suddenly separated from the energy formation, turned into a stream of light, and rushed out of the huge illusory light curtain. Whoosh! The two of them suddenly rushed out of the energy formation of the pseudo-divine dragon's eyes and appeared in the celestial palace. At this time, the two energy formations were still less than 10 centimeters in diameter. The gate of nothingness in the middle was still open. It was very difficult to open this energy gate. Would it be even harder to close it? No, it was very simple. Just directly separate the two energy formations, and the passage would be automatically cut off. Then, the two energy formations would automatically become independent closed-loop energy systems, and self-circulate to reach a balance. After putting the two energy formations back into the interspatial ring, Yang Dingtian said to Wentian, who was sitting on the throne of darkness, "Father-in-law, it's done. You can restore the celestial palace." Wentian didn't reply. Then, he controlled the throne of darkness and made the two energy probes retreat. Then, the celestial palace, which was like the reflection of yin and yang, slowly started to overlap. After a full 4 hours, the two celestial palaces, one yin and one yang, completely overlapped. In an instant, the celestial palace became solid and returned to its original state. After everything was done, Wentian directly came down from the throne and said to Yang Dingtian, "Seal my Xian meridians and energy C, as well as my consciousness. Then freeze them." Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "Sorry." He stepped forward and sealed everything about Wentian. Then, he was sent back into the secret energy chamber, placed in the unfreezing water, and completely frozen. As for Naga Shuang, she used the energy storm to scrape the throne of darkness over and over again. Then, she sat back down on the throne of darkness. Yang Dingtian was speechless. Although Wentian was a man, he was still his father-in-law. Naga Shuang even showed a look of disdain, unwilling to touch the chair that Wentian had sat on. She couldn't wait to use the energy storm to scrape off a layer. "I'll leave this to you," Yang Dingtian said. Naga Shuang nodded. Logically speaking, if Yang Dingtian wanted to head to the soul-leaving Hall's stronghold, he would need a large amount of energy to use the energy signals released by Medusa and reverse the trajectory to find Medusa's target location. Yang Dingtian's energy alone might not be enough, so he needed to add Naga Shuang's energy to it. However, the two of them shared the same energy. Therefore, even if they were thousands of miles apart, Yang Dingtian could directly use Shuang's energy. At this moment, Naga Shuang was sitting on the throne of darkness, endlessly devouring energy. The energy from the throne of darkness might not be enough to break through the sea of qi, but it was more than enough to use for battle. Yang Dingtian rushed out of the Empire of Darkness, and once again returned to the surface. At this moment, the killing formation of Medusa, which was tens of thousands of meters tall, was still standing. As for the entire human kingdom, it was still deathly silent. Yang Dingtian used his fastest speed to fly to the southwest continent. At the southern end, he saw a dense crowd of humans. Fortunately, Medusa didn't launch a new attack here. Following that, Yang Dingtian flew to the southern barbarian continent. There were no traces of an attack here either. Then, Yang Dingtian flew into the Ghost Hell region. At this moment, there were already millions of people living here. However, this was still the territory of the undead. Living here, even if they weren't attacked by the undead, their life force would be lost every day. Yang Dingtian landed in the Ghost Hell region and issued a new order. The surviving humans immediately evacuated from the Ghost Hell region and moved to various islands in the vast sea to live there. This was because Yang Dingtian was about to launch his counterattack. Therefore, the safety of this group of people was guaranteed to a certain extent. Finally, Yang Dingtian flew into the world of ice and snow. He originally thought that life here would be the most difficult. This was because there was nothing here other than ice and snow. In the end, it was still okay because the resources they brought with them when they evacuated were plentiful. Although there were casualties, most of the humans still managed to survive in the world of ice and snow. However, they were about to face a shortage of resources. Yang Dingtian immediately ordered the Naga Shuang to control the giant darkness dragon to transport large amounts of resources to the world of ice and snow through the passage of dark matter. Fortunately, the world of ice and snow was where the dark matter spread. The rest of the world was covered by Medusa's light of death and couldn't pass through. After completing all this, Yang Dingtian flew to the Dongli grasslands and headed to the soul-leaving palace's stronghold under the pyramid. Next, he would use a special method to find Medusa's location and the soul-leaving palace's location. Chapter 1190. Soon, Yang Dingtian once again came to the pyramid of the Dongli Prairie Snake Man Empire. At the same time, this was an energy stronghold of the soul-leaving palace. After Yang Dingtian entered, he immediately let go of all his consciousness defenses and let his whole person fall into a kind of confusion. At this time, Queen Medusa could easily communicate with Yang Dingtian's mind. Sure enough, just like last time, after being completely confused, Yang Dingtian's mind seemed to pass through a space-time tunnel. He didn't know how far and how long he traveled, but he once again entered the familiar soul-leaving palace. The stone statue-like Medusa also appeared directly in front of him. At this time, Yang Dingtian didn't think of anything and didn't track the soul trajectory of the soul-leaving palace at all. These things could be left to Nagashwanger to do. Yang Dingtian only needed to communicate with Medusa, and the longer, the better. Yang Dingtian, we meet again, Medusa said. Yes, Medusa said. Presumably you also know that my mental power has recovered to a certain extent. Next, I can give a part of my energy to Shima Ningning and then control her will to slaughter the surviving humans. Yang Dingtian. Queen Medusa, you have killed enough people now. Why don't you let the remaining humans go? Queen Medusa said. Yang Dingtian, it's meaningless to repeat it again. It's still the same sentence. Either you do it yourself and kill everyone, leaving only 2 million. This way, you can still control who should survive. If I do it, it's completely uncertain how many people will die and who will survive. Then, Queen Medusa said, not only that, Yang Dingtian, if you don't do it, it means that Shima Ningning will become the new butcher. Do you want to see this scene? In your heart, she should be as kind and pure as an angel. Yang Dingtian said. That's because you controlled her will. It has nothing to do with her. Is that so? Medusa sneered. In theory, that is indeed the case. But do you humans know the difference? For example, Dong Fang Bingling. Even though she was demonized, she didn't do too much evil in your eyes. If, as Princess Mudan, she had killed countless members of the Council of Light. Even if you know that it wasn't her own will, do you really not have any grudges? Yang Dingtian fell into silence. Medusa continued. Yang Dingtian, you should have become smarter. You should make the right choice. Although this choice is very cruel, it is the most rational. I think you should have the wisdom to do so. Yang Dingtian said. Your Majesty, you're still going to kill him. Why do you want me to kill him? Medusa said. This will only be good for you, there are no disadvantages. Think about it. Although you have to kill most of the remaining 200 to 300 million humans, there will still be 2 million left. Compared to the number of 200 to 300 million, it seems very, very small. But in fact, this number is already a lot. All your wives, children, your relatives, your friends, and your direct descendants can all survive. Not only that, haven't you always wanted to revive your wife, Dong Fang Bingling? Haven't you always wanted to undo the soul-devouring qi in her body? I can promise you. In theory, Medusa was right. Yang Dingtian agreed. There were almost no disadvantages. All his relatives, friends, and direct descendants could survive. Dong Fang Bingling could also be saved. If Shaochen let Medusa make a move, his friends and family might all die. Yang Dingtian said. Your Majesty, you have always wanted me to kill the hundreds of millions of humans who survived with my own hands. If I'm not wrong, you must want me to completely fall and plant a demon in my heart and soul. In this way, it will be logical for me to become the new demon king hundreds of years later. A person like me, after killing hundreds of millions of people, will be full of holes and completely dark. Medusa was silent for a moment, and then said, Yes, Yang Dingtian, this is your destiny. Yang Dingtian said. When someone pulled me here from Earth, they were waiting for this moment. Next, they will find a new savior from Earth to defeat me, right? Medusa said. It may not be from Earth. Your children can also be. You already have 3 children of demigod descendants. Yang Dingtian fell silent again. Medusa also fell silent again. The two of them had finished what they needed to say. Suddenly, Medusa exclaimed, Yang Dingtian, you have broken through to demigod? That's impossible, that's impossible. This kind of shock had never been seen on Medusa. Medusa's voice almost changed. She said, "There is almost no place in the human countries where one can break through to demigod. Even if there is, it will take more than a few hundred years. In just half a year, you have broken through from level 30 to demigod. That's impossible." Medusa looked as if she had seen a ghost. If this was in the past, Yang Dingtian would have been very happy to hear such words. Using a few years to accomplish something that others could not do in hundreds of years, he would definitely be very happy and proud. But now, Yang Dingtian no longer felt anything. Because this kind of cultivation breakthrough was completely a gift from another advanced civilization. But Yang Dingtian could still be proud. Because this kind of breakthrough came from his unconstrained thinking, from the height he saw the entire civilization. It could even be said that before Yang Dingtian became a demigod or even a saint, although it seemed like it came from his struggle. But in reality, it was more like the manipulation of the god of chaos. And everything after the saint level was Yang Dingtian's self-will. When the demon king Shimenwuya was completely destroyed, it meant that Yang Dingtian and the god of chaos were torn apart. That's right, it was a tear, not a break. After discovering that Yang Dingtian had broken through to demigod, Medusa's attitude and expression had changed. She was no longer as high and mighty as before. Instead, it was replaced by a kind of solemnity and a sense of equality. Breaking through to demigod meant that Yang Dingtian and Medusa were on the same level. At least to Medusa, that was the case. If it was in the past, Yang Dingtian would have thought so too. But after seeing that the energy civilization of the 8th era easily overturned the energy order of the Naga Empire, Yang Dingtian no longer had this kind of thinking. Then, Medusa said coldly, "Yang Dingtian, you're not here to negotiate at all. You're here to find traces of me, right?" Why did Medusa only realize Yang Dingtian's intention now? She had only just discovered that Yang Dingtian had broken through to demigod? It was not because she was slow. If she wanted, she could have discovered it when she contacted Yang Dingtian just now. But she was too arrogant. In her eyes, Yang Dingtian was just a chess piece. She did not care to explore Yang Dingtian's thoughts and secrets. It was just like how humans would not care what a chicken or duck thought. Then, Medusa's expression became even colder. She said, "Yang Dingtian, after finding me, what do you want to do?" "Kill you," Yang Dingtian said. "Ha ha!" Queen Medusa laughed. "Even if you've broken through to demigod, you're still looking at the sky from the bottom of a well, like a country bumpkin who suddenly became rich from poverty. You don't understand the world above demigod at all. You don't even know that your cultivation level and mine are like the gap between heaven and earth. You and the Naga Duga Shuang are already at level 53. Do you know that your combined energy is only a fraction of mine?" Yang Dingtian said. "Although I don't know what level you are, I can imagine the gap between us." Queen Medusa continued. "And it's not just cultivation level. It's more about the understanding of energy and the attributes of all kinds of attack energy. The gap between us is even bigger, so if you find me, it'll be the end of you. Even if you're 100 miles away from me, I can easily kill you, and you won't even be able to see me." Yang Dingtian said. "That's understandable. But we'd like to try." Queen Medusa said with a smile. "Okay, you're welcome. And let me tell you, before that you still have a choice. You can still be the next Demon King, but I'm sorry you don't have that chance now. You've already broken through to demigod, so you don't even have the right to reincarnate as the Demon King. You're dead for sure." Yang Dingtian's eyebrows suddenly trembled. He didn't expect that after breaking through to demigod, Medusa would give up on forcing him to become the new Demon King. Then Medusa said, "However, Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, you've temporarily saved the hundreds of millions of survivors. Because the next target I want to eliminate is you. Before you die, these survivors will be able to live. You're really dead for sure." Yang Dingtian said. "Why is that? Apart from you, no other demigod is allowed to exist in this world?" "That's right," Medusa said. "Breaking through to demigod means death for you." Yang Dingtian said. By the way, Queen Medusa, I seem to have a question that I've always wanted to ask. Since you can easily kill most of the humans, why do you spend so much effort to create an apocalyptic battle every 200 years? Queen Medusa said. Because of the price. Moreover, controlling chess pieces to control the fate of the world is what a god should do. A god wouldn't be a god if he were to personally take action. However, you're a failed chess piece that forced me to personally take action and pay a huge price. Yang Dingtian said. Then I'm really sorry. Alright, there's no need to say anything more between us. Queen Medusa said. I've communicated with you long enough. I'll give you 3 months to find me. After 3 months, whether you can find me or not, I'll kill you. If you want to meet me face to face, it'll depend on whether you're qualified enough to find me. With that, Medusa directly cut off the connection. Yang Dingtian also directly woke up from the illusion of the soul-leaving temple. Then, he communicated with the Naga Shuang in his mind and said, Shuanger, have you captured the energy signal trajectory of the soul-leaving temple? The Naga Shuang said, I've captured it and reached the end point directly. Just now, Yang Dingtian could clearly feel his energy rapidly depleting. This was how the Naga Shuang locked onto the energy signal of the soul-leaving temple and pursued it in reverse. This signal was very weak. The Naga Shuang locked onto this weak trajectory and then kept reversing it, which consumed an astronomical amount of energy. It was impossible to do before. Even now, both of them were powerhouses at level 53, but it still consumed about 80% of their celestial chi energy. Yang Dingtian said. Next, how long will it take to trace this trajectory? The Naga Shuang said. This involves too many calculations. It will take at least a few decades, or even longer. However, the two of us should enter the illusion of meditation very quickly. Husband, leave there. Let's enter meditation and begin the calculations. Okay. Yang Dingtian flew away from the pyramid of the Dongli grassland and returned to the human kingdom. Then, he entered the Empire of Darkness as quickly as possible. In the Celestial Palace, Yang Dingtian and the Naga Shuang entered a deep level of meditation. The energy trajectory captured by the Naga Shuang was a very, very abstract thing. It required a lot of calculations and a three-dimensional map of the entire world to truly depict it. For example, the signal trajectory of the soul-leaving temple was very likely to pass through a huge void space. If one didn't calculate it, they would think it was a normal space. In that case, they wouldn't be able to find it even if they searched for 10,000 years. And these energy signals, in different environments, displayed different frequencies and wave bands. In short, the calculations involved might exceed tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of times. In the deepest level of meditation, Yang Dingtian and the Naga Shuang began to calculate crazily. As they calculated, they traced the trajectory. At first, it was very simple. It was all in the Dongli grassland. Starting from the Pyramid of Sea Capital, they kept going north, north, north. After going north for 7,000 miles, the energy trajectory entered a complicated space. Furthermore, the trajectory of its movement had also undergone a huge change. It had become like a bowstring being thrown. Next, Yang Dingtian and the Naga Shuang had to do a lot of experiments in the illusion. They simulated various spatial environments to see which environment caused the waveband and trajectory to be exactly the same as the trajectory of the soul-leaving temple. Then, they could determine the nature of this space. In short, this was extremely complicated work. Before obtaining the demigod's marriage, Yang Dingtian couldn't complete this work at all. Time passed day by day. A few months passed. A few years passed. Dozens of years passed. This calculation was far more complicated than what Yang Dingtian had imagined. The number of calculations required was also several times more than what he had imagined. If it were in the past, this process would definitely be incomparably torturous and painful. But now, Yang Dingtian, who had the body of a demigod, was like a machine during the entire process. He didn't know fatigue or pain. He was just calculating all the time. In fact, there was no concept of time. This was a typical characteristic of Naga. Nagas seemed to have no concept of time. For their growth, there was only one scale, and that was energy cultivation. In the meditation world, time passed year after year. However, in the end, Yang Dingtian and the Naga Shuang completed it. After 85 years in the meditation world, the entire process was completed. Not only did Yang Dingtian complete the entire trajectory, but he also found the location of the soul-leaving temple. Moreover, he also simulated all the spatial environments along the way. Therefore, what appeared in front of him and Naga Shuang in the end was an extremely detailed three-dimensional spatial map, as well as a clear route. It started from the east parting grassland and continued forward, passing through countless distances and spaces, until it reached its final destination, which was also the starting point of the signal. Yang Dingtian found Medusa's nest, the location of the soul-leaving temple. However, when he saw the location of the soul-leaving temple, Yang Dingtian was completely shocked. Chapter 1191. Impossible, this is impossible, Yang Dingtian said. The Naga Shuang didn't say anything. Obviously, she had the same opinion as Yang Dingtian. This was really impossible. Because after an extremely complicated calculation, they found that the soul-leaving temple was actually in the human countries. Moreover, it was in the sea between the central continent and the west continent. Because the captured energy trajectory first went north from the Dongli grassland and entered an inexplicable space. Then, they entered the dark realm. And it wasn't just a dark realm, but also an unfamiliar dark realm. They didn't know how many spaces they passed through, but they were all macroscopic spaces. Finally, they took a big detour and entered the southern sea of the human countries. Then, they kept going north until they reached their final destination. It was the center of the west continent's sea. Be it Yang Dingtian or Naga Shuang, either of them had expected this outcome. How was this possible? How could Medusa's lair, the soul-leaving temple, be in the human countries and so close to the west continent? In that sea, whether it was the Mermaid Empire or the fleets of the human countries, they had passed through and explored countless times. Yang Dingtian said. Shuang, could it be that our deduction is wrong? Naga Shuang said. It's impossible. Our deduction is correct. Yang Dingtian said. Then could it be that Medusa discovered our intentions and deliberately misled us? The Naga Shuang said. After discovering that we broke through to the demigod realm, she changed her primary target to us, so she couldn't wait for us to enter her domain. You should know that Medusa can put Shima Ningning in the human countries and use the soul-leaving temple to collect puppets, but she never appears. There must be a reason. So if she wants to kill us, she has to give most of her energy to Shima Ningning and control her to kill us. However, she definitely won't be willing to lose her energy unless she has no other choice. So it's best if we find her and send ourselves to her door. Yang Dingtian nodded as Naga Shuang's words were very reasonable. This meant that Queen Medusa's soul-leaving palace was indeed in the central west continent's sea region. Moreover, the result of the calculation was very, very accurate, almost to the point. Yang Dingtian could explore the coordinates at any time. Making a prompt decision, Yang Dingtian said, Shuang, wait here. I'll go check it out. Okay, Naga Shuang said. Yang Dingtian rushed out of the Empire of Darkness and headed south. Heading south from the fringe, they entered the central sea region of the western central continent. Originally, this area of the sea was the busiest in the world. Every day, countless ships sailed between the middle and western continents. Moreover, this sea region was unusually gentle, calm, and tranquil. Flying on the surface of the sea, Yang Dingtian saw many ships drifting aimlessly. These ships are fine, but the people on them have been turned into fossils. Soon, Yang Dingtian found the calculated point. From the surface of the sea, there was nothing special. It was just a calm sea. Yang Dingtian dived into the sea. The sea here was not deep, less than 1,000 meters. Yang Dingtian easily reached the bottom. There was nothing special at the bottom of the sea here. It was just an ordinary seabed reef and countless seabed creatures. Regarding this point, Yang Dingtian was still very happy. The humans on this continent had suffered a destructive attack, but most creatures were fine, including the seabed creatures. They were still full of vitality. Yang Dingtian found the target point and locked onto it within a few centimeters. It was just an ordinary reef. There was nothing special about it. This did not look like the location of Medusa's soul-leaving palace at all. Or could it be under the sea? Yang Dingtian controlled the soul's sword with his consciousness, and kept spinning and digging. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The Emperor-grade soul sword spun quickly and soon drilled thousands of meters, tens of thousands of meters, hundreds of thousands of meters, thousands of kilometers. Then, it drilled to the end. Next, it was a thick layer of dark matter. It was actually dark matter. Yang Dingtian knew that the Empire of Darkness did not spread here. This patch of dark matter was a separate region. However, this was normal. The entire world here was filled with dark materials. This material could devour anything. However, it seemed that it was not to destroy this world, but to protect this world. Moreover, this dark matter also seemed to be a product of the 8th era's human civilization. This dark matter could be considered an absolute energy protection layer, an isolation layer, and could grow freely. However, since it was a human product created by the 8th era's human civilization, then it had nothing to do with Naga. Then why could the primeval Naga's eye melt the dark matter? This did not make sense. Unless this so-called primeval Naga's eye was not the Naga's eye at all. It was also a product of the 8th era's human civilization, but it was embedded in the primeval Naga's statue. However, the current situation was to find Medusa's lair. The primeval Naga's eye was not important. Yang Dingtian took out the primeval Naga's eye gem and melted the dark matter. He hoped that Queen Medusa's soul-leaving palace was within this dark matter, just like the Empire of Darkness. If that was the case, everything would make sense. The Empire of Darkness was a huge energy array group of the 8th era's human civilization. And here was another energy array. Queen Medusa had used the 8th era's energy array to launch an attack that was close to destroying the world. Melting the dark matter, it went deeper, 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 deeper. It went thousands of miles deep into the dark matter. Suddenly, the front was empty, and then it suddenly opened up. There was indeed an incomparably huge space inside. Moreover, it was completely brightly lit. An incomparably huge Skirich imperial capital. It was even bigger, taller, and deeper than the Empire of Darkness's Skirich imperial capital. However, the entire space was far smaller than the Empire of Darkness because there was no dark castle here, only the Skirich imperial capital. The Empire of Darkness's space spanned tens of thousands of miles, and this space was only about 2,000 miles. It was occupied by the entire Skirich imperial capital. The Skirich imperial capital was so tall that it was impossible to know how high it was. It was wide in the middle and pointed at both ends. The widest place in the middle was the Celestial Palace. It was more than 800 miles in diameter, far larger than the Empire of Darkness's. Yang Dingtian's heart was beating wildly. Could it be that Medusa's lair, the soul-leaving palace, was actually just an energy array of the 8th era? Yang Dingtian flew directly into the Celestial Palace of the Skirich imperial capital. The structure was very similar to the Empire of Darkness's, but it was much simpler and more sci-fi. It was obvious that the Skirich imperial capital was built later than the Empire of Darkness, and it was much more advanced. However, the strange thing was that the Skirich imperial capital under the Empire of Darkness had almost destroyed the 3 continents for tens of thousands of miles. The Skirich imperial capital was even bigger, and it was also rotating. However, it didn't affect the sea and land above at all. It was still full of vitality. After Yang Dingtian rushed into the Celestial Palace, he looked directly at the throne of darkness inside. Yes, there was also a throne here. However, it wasn't black, but blue. It wasn't even a majestic throne, but a dreamy position. It was blue. It didn't look like a throne. Instead, it looked like the captain's seat on a spaceship in a sci-fi movie. However, there wasn't a Medusa as he had imagined. Instead, it was empty. Medusa wasn't here, so where could she be? Moreover, the strange thing was that the Skirich Imperial capital kept rotating. It was obvious that the entire energy array was operating. Yang Dingtian was almost certain that this was the energy source of the Medusa killing arrays on the ground. However, why wasn't Queen Medusa here? Instinctively, Yang Dingtian wanted to go to the blue throne and sit on it. Husband, don't sit. Suddenly, the Naga Shuang's voice sounded in Yang Dingtian's mind. Okay. Yang Dingtian asked. Do you feel anything? The Naga Shuang said. It's just a very instinctive feeling. Yang Dingtian flew all over the celestial palace and out of the Skirich imperial capital. He searched the entire space, but there was no sign of Queen Medusa at all. This space wasn't big, and Yang Dingtian was able to easily search every corner of it. How strange. Why wasn't Medusa here? Was this Medusa's lair? First of all, it didn't look similar to the soul-leaving palace in the illusion. However, it made perfect sense in principle. At that time, Medusa betrayed the imperial capital and would definitely be hunted down by the Naga Empire. Therefore, there were only some places that the Naga Empire could never find or enter. The ruins of the 8th era's civilization were obviously the best place. Medusa's escape to this place was the most logical. However, this wasn't right. The two types of primeval Naga's eye gems could melt the dark matter, so the Naga Empire could enter the dark matter. And the Medusa killing array that had slaughtered countless humans required the energy of this Skirich imperial capital. Yang Dingtian's thoughts were conflicted. One moment, he felt that this must be the soul-leaving palace, and the next moment, he felt that this shouldn't be the soul-leaving palace. In the end, his head was about to explode as he lay on the ground of the celestial palace. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian asked in his mind, Shuanger, why do you ask? You're colder and calmer than me. You can find the truth directly. The Naga Shuang said. Husband, my thoughts are the same as yours. The energy that Medusa used to slaughter humans must have come from this Skirich imperial capital's energy formation. Moreover, this energy formation is more advanced than the one in the Empire of Darkness. Therefore, this can indeed be considered Medusa's nest. Yang Dingtian asked. What else? The Naga Shuang said. However, Medusa's soul-leaving palace isn't here. To be precise, this can be considered the soul-leaving palace, but only a part of it. Because the Naga Empire could melt the dark matter at that time, if Medusa escaped here, she wouldn't be able to escape. Therefore, Medusa is in this Skirich imperial capital, but not in the Celestial Palace. The Celestial Palace is a part of the entire Skirich imperial capital, Yang Dingtian said. But I've searched inside and outside this Skirich imperial capital. There's nothing at all. The Naga Shuang said. Husband, what do you think of when you see this blue throne in front of you? Yang Dingtian said. It's very dreamy and sci-fi. It's like the seats in the spaceships in the movies on Earth. The Naga Shuang said. Yes, and this Skirich imperial capital is more advanced than the Empire of Darkness. It can be seen that it was built later. Let's make some bold guesses. Why did the humans of the 8th era build the Empire of Darkness? Yang Dingtian said. Maybe it's because of the war, but the ground has been destroyed, and it's all within the enemy's attack range. Therefore, they had no choice but to build the city underground and use a thick layer of dark matter to protect it in an attempt to let the civilization continue. The Naga Shuang said. Yes, but it's clear that both sides found a way to break through the dark matter in the end. Therefore, the Empire of Darkness built underground can no longer protect them. So, what did they want to do? Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and thought for a while. Leave the chaotic world and go to other places in the universe. Therefore, they needed a spaceship. The Naga Shuang said. Yes, so this Skirich imperial capital might be a spaceship. An energy spaceship that can leave the chaotic world. This explained why this blue position was so sci-fi. Why was there no dark castle in the entire space, only a huge Skirich imperial capital? Yang Dingtian's mind went into a fantasy. In fact, if he looked at the Skirich imperial capital horizontally, it really did look like an incomparably huge spaceship. Yang Dingtian said. But even if this is an energy spaceship, there's no trace of Medusa. The Naga Shuang said. Of course, Medusa won't be in the main hull of this spaceship, because it might not be the command room, and she won't be able to escape the pursuit of the Naga Empire. So, where do you think Medusa is now? Husband, use your wild imagination. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes. If this scary imperial capital in front of him was a huge spaceship of the 8th era's civilization, then this celestial hall might not be the cockpit. It could be the command center, where the troops in the fleet could gather and train. However, this did not look like the cockpit. Then, Queen Medusa's soul-leaving palace might be in the cockpit of this huge spaceship. Husband, I think so too. The Naga Shuang said. Queen Medusa is in the cockpit of this spaceship. Then, where do you think the cockpit of this huge spaceship is? Yang Dingtian said. At the head of the spaceship. Yes. The Naga Shuang said. Then, where is the head of the spaceship? Yang Dingtian said. The tail of the spaceship must be the one that went deep into the ocean. If there's no accident, its head should no longer be in the chaotic world, but in space. Just like in the third dark realm, I once left the chaotic world and entered the boundless space. Yes, that must be it. At that time, Medusa could only escape the Naga Empire's search by escaping from the chaotic world. No matter where she was, she would definitely die. That must be it. Yang Dingtian suddenly understood. The Naga Shuang said. Then, husband, do you know where the cockpit of this spaceship is? Do you know where the soul-leaving palace is? Yang Dingtian said. Yes, it's easy. The location is clear. The Naga Shuang said. Then do you know how to get to the soul-leaving palace? Yang Dingtian said. Yes, it's still easy. The Naga Shuang smiled and said. Husband, I'm really proud of you. Yang Dingtian said. You thought of it earlier than me. No. The Naga Shuang said. I didn't think of it earlier. I'm just guiding you. You have to think about it yourself. Because when it comes to spaceships and the concept of the universe, you have a much clearer understanding than I do. Yang Dingtian immediately turned into a stream of light and flew out. He was going to the soul-leaving palace. He was almost certain that he could find the soul-leaving palace and Medusa. Chapter 1192. Hold on, husband. Come back for a moment, the Naga Shuang suddenly said. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but be startled, but he still nodded. In any case, although the celestial hall in the imperial capital was the closest to the soul-departing hall, it should only be a few thousand miles away. However, it was probably completely impossible to pass through. If he wanted to go to the soul-departing hall, he would need to take another route. He flew out of this dark space as fast as he could, rushed out of the thick dark matter, and returned to the bottom of the sea. Then, he rushed out of the sea and returned to the Empire of Darkness thousands of miles away. He arrived at the Great Hall of the Empire of Darkness. What's wrong? Shuana? Yang Dingtian asked. The Naga Shuang said. Husband, do you plan to go to the soul-departing hall now? Yang Dingtian thought for a moment and said. Actually, we don't have much choice. The Naga Shuang said. Actually, our goal this time was only to find the soul-departing hall and Medusa. And this goal has already been achieved, hasn't it? This was true. This time, Yang Dingtian went to the Middle West Continent's sea region because he couldn't believe that the soul-departing hall would be there. In the end, it was both there and not there. The depths of the Middle West Continent's sea region was the center of the Great Hall of the Imperial Capital, and the soul-departing hall should be in the cockpit at the bow of the ship. It wasn't in the chaotic world, but in outer space. But no matter what, it should be certain that they had found the so-called soul-departing hall. Then, the Naga Shuang said, We found where Medusa is, but we don't have a way to kill her at the moment, nor do we have the strength to kill her. Yang Dingtian nodded to confirm this. The Naga Shuang continued, And it seems that Medusa has no way to leave the so-called soul-departing hall, and no way to come to the human countries to kill us. Therefore, this gives us ample time to grow stronger until we can kill her. Right now, she's doing everything possible to get us to die. I know, Yang Dingtian said. But if we don't go, she won't force me to go. She would give part of her energy to Shima Ningning and then control her will, turning her into a slaughterer and kill all the surviving humans. Naga Shuang admitted to this statement. She wanted to say that they shouldn't care about the lives of the surviving humans, but she didn't say it out loud. Yang Dingtian continued. Moreover, even if we hide in the Empire of Darkness, we will still be able to escape. If Medusa has no other choice, she might control her Skirich imperial capital and launch a destructive attack on our Empire of Darkness. The Skirich imperial capital where she lived was even more advanced and powerful. In fact, he didn't even need to absorb the energy of the continent. Can you guarantee that it doesn't have the energy to destroy our Empire of Darkness? Naga Shuang thought for a while and nodded again. It should have, but the price is too high. So, Medusa won't do that unless it's absolutely necessary. Yang Dingtian said. But as long as we hide in the Empire of Darkness and become stronger and stronger, when we can threaten her safety, she will definitely take action. Naga Shuang agreed with Yang Dingtian's statement. Yang Dingtian asked, Shuanger, is Medusa at her weakest now? Naga Shuang nodded and said, she should only have recovered about 20 to 30% of her spiritual power. Yang Dingtian said, if we hide in the Empire of Darkness and desperately devour energy, how long will it take? How long will it take for us to become strong enough to defeat and kill Medusa? Naga Shuang said, a long time. She didn't say anything about the world. Yang Dingtian said, but Medusa won't give us such a long time. So, now is the best time to kill Medusa. Naga Shuang was silent. Yang Dingtian said, Shuanger, we have a saying, martial arts lies outside of poetry. Naga Shuang said, husband, I know what you mean. You want to kill Queen Medusa through other means. If it's not through martial arts, what are your thoughts? Yang Dingtian said, the first idea is to enter the Forbidden Continent's illusory realm again. Then, we won't leave again until we find a way to destroy the most advanced sky-reaching imperial capital. Naga Shuang thought for a while and said, husband, your idea should work. Because there will definitely be a way to destroy it in the illusory realm. But if such an advanced spaceship is destroyed, I suspect that we won't be able to protect these continents. Yang Dingtian fell silent. This possibility was very strong. Yang Dingtian said, then, let's wait in the Forbidden Continent's illusory realm. Let's wait for Medusa's spaceship to complete the construction of the imperial capital. Obviously, Medusa isn't its supreme commander. She might just be an intruder, the only intelligent life form in the entire spaceship, so she has a certain degree of control. But he will definitely give me a very primeval order that will allow me to obtain the supreme control of the entire spaceship. Then I will control the energy of the entire spaceship and kill Medusa in an instant. Naga Shuang's eyes lit up and said, husband, this possibility exists, but there are two problems. The first problem is that in the 8th era's illusory realm, a day in the real world is a few years in the illusory realm. But this 8th era of civilization might have been passed down for hundreds of thousands or millions of years. The appearance of this spaceship in the imperial capital means that the humans of the 8th era are preparing to escape from the chaotic world. This means that it is already the end of the entire civilization. Therefore, you will have to stay in the illusory realm for a very long time. If converted to real time, it might be more than a few hundred years. Yang Dingtian was stunned. That was right, this possibility existed, and it definitely existed. Then Yang Dingtian said, then perhaps there is a way to fly directly to the end of the 8th era, and then travel through the endless dark void again. This represents the passage of time. Go directly to the 9th era, and then return to the 8th era. Then, you will be at the end of the 8th era. Naga Shuang said, husband, this theory of yours is also feasible. However, you already know that traveling through the dark void represents the passage of time. If you fly in the reverse direction of the dark void, you will wake up from the illusory realm once your speed exceeds the traveling speed of the dark void itself. Then, you will appear in the Forbidden Continent. Yang Dingtian fell silent again. That's right, Naga Shuang was right once again. After thinking for a while, Yang Dingtian said, Then I have another idea. Naga Shuang said, Husband, please speak. Yang Dingtian said, You know, I once obtained the demon core of a Naga royalty. Its soul was once in my mind for a period of time, and then it was injected into my soul's sword. However, from the beginning to the end, because of its extreme arrogance, it barely communicated with me. Only when it was at a critical moment would it take the initiative to control the soul's sword to attack. The first time was in the secret realm of the Maze of Despair, and the second time was in the Empire of Darkness. You were about to be trapped by Wentian, but it controlled the soul's sword to release the 10,000 ancestral swords and saved you. Naga Shuang said, That's right. Do you think the existence of this demon core of the Naga royalty is not a coincidence? Yang Dingtian nodded and said, Yes, in the ancient Naga Empire, other than Medusa, all the other Naga chose to sacrifice themselves to create the new Naga. I think that the Naga Empire must have chased after Medusa, but had no choice but to give up in the end. However, they definitely didn't give up completely. Therefore, the royal family of the Naga Empire left behind a demon core, and then injected its soul and consciousness into this demon core. This way, it didn't betray and live on, but it also didn't completely give up on chasing after Medusa. Naga Shuang's eyes lit up. This possibility was completely possible. Yang Dingtian continued, If my guess is correct, then this soul of the Naga royalty has a way to kill Medusa. Then Yang Dingtian took out the soul sword and said, If that's the case, we've already helped it find Medusa. How to kill her next will depend on its methods. Naga Shuang said, Husband, you and I are connected. However, you and the soul sword are one way at the moment. You can use your consciousness to control the soul sword, but it may not know what you're thinking. Therefore, you still have to tell it that you found Medusa. Yang Dingtian said, This is very simple. Write a very simple scroll, then use your consciousness to control the soul sword and comprehend this scroll. Yes, this was indeed the case. This kind of scroll not only transmitted martial arts, but also the simplest information. This kind of information scroll didn't even need to use energy runes. Then, could Yang Dingtian communicate directly with the soul of the Naga royalty? Of course he could, but at least he had to wake it up first. However, it didn't seem to have any intention of communicating with Yang Dingtian. Therefore, he could only use this method to inform it. There was no time to lose. Subsequently, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang immediately entered the deep meditation world. He used his fastest speed to write a scroll and inform it about finding Medusa. Yang Dingtian even wanted to write Medusa's location in the scroll. Later, he discovered that using the scroll code to write Medusa's specific location would consume an astonishing amount of code, so he could only give up. He informed it of Medusa's approximate location. After writing, Yang Dingtian immediately woke up from the illusion. The scroll had already been written. Then, Yang Dingtian used his consciousness to control the soul sword and immediately comprehend this scroll. The scroll was reduced to ashes inch by inch. It was completely burned after reading it. When the last corner of the scroll was completely burned, rumble. Yang Dingtian only felt a loud sound in his mind. Then, a boundless oppressive aura swept toward them. Yang Dingtian was fine, but Naga Shuang had already instinctively prostrated herself. Boom! Then, an incomparably huge image of Naga appeared in Yang Dingtian's mind. It was huge, over tens of thousands of meters, and its entire body was golden yellow. Especially its eyes and two horns, which were even more dazzling. Who was the most powerful in Naga, and whose bloodline was the noblest? The one closest to the fallen divine dragon was the most powerful, and the noblest. From its eyes and two horns, one could see the Naga's bloodline. And the Naga that Yang Dingtian saw in his mind at this time was already extremely powerful and noble. It looked no different from a dragon. It was almost impossible to tell that it was a Naga. Of course, no matter what, it was still a Naga, not a divine dragon. Human, you really found the trace of the traitor Medusa? The Naga royalty spoke in a deep and hoarse voice. This voice was not only male and female, it had already surpassed the form of a human. Then Naga Shuang knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Naga Duga Shuang greets His Majesty. Yang Ditian was stunned. This Naga royalty was not just a royalty, but the Emperor of the Naga Empire. The Emperor of Naga seemed to look in the direction of Naga Shuang. He frowned slightly and said, "You have broken through. Who gave birth to you?" Obviously, the Emperor of Naga was not very happy about the existence of Naga Shuang. Because they felt that they were already a product of the past, they were single-mindedly trying to create a new Naga, and a new Naga that was completely spiritual type. Now, there was a demigod Naga of the energy type. Although it had saved her before, it did not like her very much. Naga Shuang lay dormant on the ground and did not speak. The Emperor of Naga looked at Yang Dingtian again and said, "Human, tell me clearly, where is Medusa?" Yang Dingtian said, "In a spaceship built by the human kingdom in the 8th era. This spaceship is wrapped in dark matter, and most of it is in the chaotic world, but the cockpit and the bow of the ship are outside the chaotic world, out in space." The Emperor of Naga said, "I see. No wonder Medusa could escape the pursuit of our Naga Empire. She is already out of the chaotic world." Then the Emperor of Naga said, "Now, begin to reconstruct Medusa's specific location and route in your mind." Yang Dingtian said, "Yes, although the route is very accurate, the surrounding environment is very freehand and unreal." "Don't worry," the Emperor of Naga said. Yang Dingtian immediately recalled the trajectory of the energy signal of the soul leaving temple in his mind. From the Dongli grassland to the north, through many twists and turns, through who knows how many spaces, finally arriving at the destination, the soul leaving temple. With Yang Dingtian's permission, the Emperor of Naga directly read Yang Dingtian's memory. Then he sighed and said, "Amazing, amazing, she actually went here. No wonder the Empire's search and pursuit at that time was fruitless. Her escape direction is the opposite of our pursuit." Yang Dingtian said, "Your Majesty, may I ask if you have a way to kill Medusa?" "No," the Emperor of Naga said. "You should know that I only put my soul in the demon core. Whether it is energy or spirit, they are very weak, less than 1,000th of the body. So, it is completely impossible for you to rely on my energy to kill Medusa." Yang Dingtian said, "You can also borrow the power of this soul sword, and the energy of me and Naga Shuang." The Emperor of Naga said, "There is no doubt that as the Emperor of Naga, I have a special great judgment technique for the subjects of my empire. It can restrain Naga, including Medusa. But now the energy is too weak, it is still not effective." Yang Dingtian suddenly felt depressed and said, "Your Majesty, is there really no way?" The Emperor of Naga said, "Unless you have the fossil liquid of our Naga Empire. I will store this fossil liquid in the Great Judgment Technique, so as long as a little enters Medusa's body, she will turn back into a fossil." Yang Dingtian was surprised and said, "Medusa specializes in turning others into fossils, can she also turn into a fossil?" The Emperor of Naga said, "Of course, she can turn people into fossils, it is a kind of spiritual energy evolution. And this fossil liquid is the energy counter of all Naga people. Although they are all fossils, it has nothing to do with Medusa's fossil technique." Yang Dingtian was overjoyed and said, "Your Majesty, I really do have it." Then Yang Dingtian took out the box. There was a pulsating green liquid in it, as if it was alive. The Emperor of Naga looked at the green liquid in disbelief and said, "Where did you get this? The Naga Empire is destroyed, and there is still this fossil liquid?" Yang Dingtian said, "I got it from an auction under one of Medusa's puppets, even they don't know what it is. I don't know where it came from." The Emperor of Naga wondered. "That's really strange." Yang Dingtian said, "Your Majesty, what should I do to integrate this fossil liquid into your Great Judgment Technique?" The Emperor of Naga said, "This fossil liquid is not a liquid, it is a kind of energy. Later, I will teach you to write a devour scroll, and then let your soul sword devour the energy of the fossil liquid. However, the energy of the fossil liquid is fatal to the energy of the Naga people. Once your soul sword devours it, The demon core in your soul sword will be turned into ashes, and the Naga royalty energy in it will also be turned into ashes. Will it harm your soul? Yang Dingtian asked. That won't happen, the Emperor of Naga said. The fossil technique only imprisons the body and energy into fossils, the soul is still free. That's good, the Emperor of Naga said. The sea of chi in your soul sword is now strong enough to extract my demon core. Then, under the control of the Emperor of Naga, a little bit of energy seeped out from the Chaos Emperor grade soul sword's hilt. In the end, it condensed into a complete demon core of the Naga royalty. Yang Dingtian put it back into the space ring. The Emperor of Naga said, Wait for a few hours, I will write a scroll, and then write this scroll through the mind of the Naga Duga Shuang. Yes, Your Majesty, Yang Dingtian said. In less than 2 hours, the Emperor of Naga had completed the scroll, and then wrote the scroll of devouring the energy of the fossil liquid through the hands of the Naga Duga Shuang. Yang Dingtian used his consciousness to control the soul sword, comprehended the scroll, and completely devoured the energy of the fossil liquid. In fact, the Emperor of Naga could have controlled the soul sword to do this. His actions only proved that he had no intention of taking the highest control of the soul sword. After all this was done, the Naga royalty said, All right, let's go and kill Medusa. Chapter 1193. Let me confirm one last time. If I was stared at by Medusa's eyes, would I turn into a fossil? Yang Dingtian asked. No. The Naga Shuang and the Emperor of Naga said in unison. Yang Dingtian nodded. That's good. Then, he flew out with the Chaos Emperor grade soul sword. The Naga Shuang remained in the Empire of Darkness. Because the two of them shared life, as long as the Naga Shuang didn't die, Yang Dingtian wouldn't die completely. After flying out of the Empire of Darkness, Yang Dingtian didn't fly toward the west central continent. Although it was closest to the soul departing hall, he couldn't pass through it. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had to use the dumbest method to go to the soul departing hall. That was to completely follow the inferred energy trajectory and return the same way, all the way back to the point of origin of the energy signal, which was the soul leaving palace. Yang Dingtian first flew to the Dongli grassland pyramid, then continued north, north, and north. After a few thousand miles, he reached the end of the Dongli grassland. Then, Yang Dingtian suddenly lost all his energy. Because this was the celestial Red Sea region. Anyone who came here would lose all their celestial chi energy. Unexpectedly, Yang Dingtian was still the same after breaking through to the demigod level. Yang Dingtian, who had lost his celestial chi, fell from the sky into the celestial Red Sea. At this time, Yang Dingtian couldn't see the figure of the lonely temple. In the celestial Red Sea, Yang Dingtian had spent a few days with the Dongfang Bingling. Here, he had the most intimate inner contact with the celestial Red Sea. And here, he saw Saint Tantai. But, with regards to Saint Tantai, Yang Dingtian had already turned into a dense fog that he couldn't see through. Especially the border guardian that she was talking about. That's right, the human countries did have many borders. The Southeastern Sea region, the Forbidden Continent Sea region in the west, the Netherworld Sea region in the southwest, the Devil Sea region in the southeast, the world of ice and snow in the north, the celestial Red Sea in the Dongli grassland, and the Yin-Yang Mirror. These were all the borders of the existing human countries. These words were true, but it was about the border guardian. To be honest, Yang Dingtian was already a demigod. He knew a thing or two about this world's top secrets. As far as he knew, other than the celestial Red Sea, he didn't see any other border guardians. Therefore, it was hard to say whether the term border guardian was true or not. If it was fake, then Tantai was lying. Why would Tantai lie? Who was she? This was a huge puzzle. Of course, this puzzle was not important to Yang Dingtian right now. Right now, the most important thing for Yang Dingtian was to kill Medusa. At this moment, the Red Sea in the sky was like a tiger blocking the way. Of course, the celestial Red Sea was thousands of miles long. Yang Dingtian could swim to the end even if he wanted to. But at the end, there must be a spatial barrier. Yang Dingtian needed celestial qi to create a spatial door. However, Yang Dingtian had lost all his celestial qi, but he could still control the soul sword to fly. He could even let the Emperor of Naga use the greater space technique to create a spatial door through the soul sword. Therefore, Yang Dingtian used his consciousness to control the soul sword. As a result, the soul sword received the order immediately, and immediately carried it out. However, it just flew out of the space ring and fell straight down. In the space ring, there was no problem at all, and it wasn't affected. But after leaving the space ring, it also lost all its celestial qi. Therefore, the celestial Red Sea had caused Yang Dingtian to be at his wit's end. Therefore, Yang Dingtian swam in the celestial Red Sea, hoping to find the lonely temple in Tantai here. However, he swam a few laps and didn't see the temple at all. Suddenly, the Naga Shuang's voice sounded in Yang Dingtian's heart. "Husband, leave the celestial Red Sea. I read your memories about Saint Tantai and I feel that she is very dangerous. Leave immediately." Yang Dingtian didn't ask back. The Naga Shuang's intuition had always been very sharp. He immediately turned back. However, it was very difficult to go to the soul-leaving temple without passing through the celestial Red Sea. At this moment, the Naga Shuang said, "Husband, I read the measurement of the spatial tear in your mind." Yang Dingtian said, "I also calculated that the end of the celestial Red Sea is not the spatial tear." The Naga Shuang said, "It wasn't before, but you can go around the spatial tear and go to the spatial tear at the end of the celestial Red Sea. I have drawn a specific route. Husband, you can fly according to this route." Yang Dingtian said, "But the spatial tear is constantly expanding and changing." The Naga Shuang said, "Yes, but I used the human countries as a reference, so the route can't be wrong." Yang Dingtian thought for a while. It was indeed correct. As long as the route was fixed at a few points and designed in the interior of the spatial tear and not at the edge, the route wouldn't be wrong. Therefore, Yang Dingtian didn't wait for Saint Tantai to appear. He swam back to the shore of the celestial Red Sea and climbed down the cliff. After returning to the Dongli grassland, Yang Dingtian recovered his Xian Qi and immediately flew to the Holy Valley in the east. In less than an hour, Yang Dingtian flew to the endless sea of the Holy Valley. Then, he opened a spatial door here and entered the spatial tear. The spatial tear had indeed expanded a lot and became a lot bigger. However, Yang Dingtian completely ignored this information at this time and calculated according to the Naga Shuang's trajectory. First, he flew to the center of the spatial tear, then flew northwest. After flying for more than 10,000 miles, Yang Dingtian reached the end of the spatial tear. It was a void. Yang Dingtian opened up a spatial door at this point and leaped over. In an instant, he entered another space. This place was indeed the first dark realm. Because Yang Dingtian and the Naga Shuang had not completed the overall spatial structure of the Chaos World, they only guessed that the end of the celestial Red Sea might be the first dark realm. Unexpectedly, this result was accurate. After entering the first dark realm, Yang Dingtian returned to his original route. He didn't randomly move forward just because he was familiar with the first dark realm. He even forgot about the existence of the first dark realm. Sure enough, after flying to the center of the first dark realm, the path turned downward. It led underground. Looking carefully, it was actually a vortex. Yang Dingtian had been in the first dark realm for a long time, but he had never found this central vortex. Because it was simply too small. And the first dark realm was tens of thousands of miles wide, so it was very difficult to find. Yang Dingtian controlled the soul swords and dug into the vortex. After digging for less than 10,000 meters, he had dug through. Below, there was an energy vortex that was neither big nor small. Yang Dingtian directly dived into this energy vortex. In an instant, his entire body was sucked into the energy vortex. He kept shuttling. He didn't know how long he shuttled. Perhaps it was a few thousand miles, or even further. In this shuttling, Yang Dingtian didn't even know if he was falling or being ejected. He couldn't tell if he was going up or down. In any case, he directly rushed out of the first dark realm and fell into the void. Then, he saw the endless stars behind him again. This should be outer space? He had left the Chaos World's outer space. Yang Dingtian wasn't surprised for long. He continued to fly according to his original route. In this piece of outer space, Yang Dingtian was constantly flying. Below was the first dark realm. After flying for about 10,000 miles, he immediately hit an energy barrier. Yang Dingtian opened a space door and passed through this energy barrier. After passing through the barrier, he was still in outer space. However, below was the second dark realm. He flew another 10,000 miles to the west, flew through the entire second dark realm, and then hit another energy barrier. Yang Dingtian opened another space door and passed through it. As expected, he flew into outer space above the third dark realm. After flying for less than 10,000 miles, the familiar large vortex was in front of him. This vortex led directly to the confinement space of New Naga. Yang Dingtian had flown here before and didn't continue to advance in outer space. This time, Yang Dingtian's destination wasn't New Naga, so he continued forward. After flying for another 10,000 miles, he hit another energy barrier. If he was not mistaken, behind this energy barrier should be the fourth dark realm. Yang Dingtian had never been to this place, but he was full of curiosity. Opening a space door, Yang Dingtian jumped over this energy barrier. Whoosh! He entered a completely unfamiliar world. Was this the fourth dark realm? What was the fourth dark realm? Yang Dingtian saw countless vortexes. That's right, countless energy vortexes. Moreover, the colors were gorgeous and incomparably complicated. Yang Dingtian had never seen such a strange space before, and he had never seen such a dangerous space. Without a doubt, almost every one of these vortexes was fatal. The space and energy here were completely chaotic. Who knew where they led? After entering a vortex, even if one didn't die, they would be completely lost. Yang Dingtian continued to fly west in outer space, observing the fourth dark realm as he flew. After flying for less than 10,000 miles, his trajectory changed again, and he had to rush directly into a huge vortex. Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. The third dark realm only had one huge vortex, and it led to New Naga. Now, he had to rush into another vortex. And the vortex in front of him seemed to be even bigger. Who knew where it would teleport him? Gritting his teeth, Yang Dingtian fiercely gritted his teeth and rushed into this vortex. Then, his entire consciousness was completely lost. Once again, he experienced the chaotic space-time shuttling. The surrounding scenery was constantly changing, full of incomparably magical and mysterious colors. Shuttling, shuttling, shuttling. After an unknown amount of time, Yang Dingtian woke up again. However, when he woke up, he was already floating in the air, motionless. He seemed to have left the fourth dark realm, and was deep in a huge void. Behind him was the fourth dark realm with countless vortexes. It turned out that the vortex only penetrated the entire fourth dark realm. In this void, Yang Dingtian continued to advance according to the route that he had drawn. Forward, forward, forward. Later, Yang Dingtian found that this dark void was very strange. It was a void, and it was not evolved from the expansion of dark matter, but was just a natural void. Yang Dingtian kept flying, and flying. He didn't know whether he flew tens of thousands of miles, or hundreds of thousands of miles. After flying for an unknown amount of time, he directly hit a layer of energy wall. He opened a space door and passed through this energy wall. Then, he saw a thick layer of dark matter. He used the primeval Naga gem to melt the thick layer of dark matter. He continued to move forward, forward, forward. He traveled thousands of miles through the dark matter. Then, he suddenly rushed out of the dark matter. In front of him, he saw a crystal-clear plain. It was only about a few thousand miles, and every inch was crystal clear, emitting a beautiful light. This was not the crystal ground of the Naga Empire, but the energy ground of the 8th era. Then, on this ground, Yang Dingtian saw pyramids standing tall. There were pyramids of all colors. There were about 9 of them in total. And the trajectory calculated by Naga Shuang and Yang Dingtian pointed to one of the pyramids, the one in the middle. Immediately, Yang Dingtian knew that he and Naga Shuang were wrong. This might be a spaceship, but through the cockpit, he was not in space, but inside the chaotic world. Now, Yang Dingtian could finally be sure that the chaotic world was a planet. And the fourth dark realm, which was the original 8th era human civilization, happened to be on the opposite side of this planet from the current human kingdom. Just now, after Yang Dingtian passed through the fourth dark realm, he flew through the endless void and dark matter, and finally arrived here. In fact, he had passed through the entire planet from the middle to the other side. If nothing unexpected happened, after passing through here, he would be in the human kingdom. Yang Dingtian let out a long sigh of relief. After discovering that the chaotic world was still a round planet, he relaxed a lot. At least, this was within the scope of his understanding. Moreover, when he entered the vortex in the first dark realm, he did not enter under the first dark realm. Instead, he was ejected out of the energy field of the first dark realm by the vortex and into space. Therefore, what he saw along the way was not the first dark realm or the back of the second dark realm, but the front. The reason why the energy signal from the soul-leaving palace had to be transmitted to the energy field of the human kingdom. It was because they had to avoid the abyssal border. The abyssal border could devour all energy, including energy signals. In fact, the principle was very simple. Energy signals were always transmitted in the air, but they had to pass through different energy fields. However, he did not have the energy to think about such a complicated and profound problem. Medusa's soul-leaving palace was right in front of him. It was really surprising. At that time, Medusa did not flee to the human kingdom at all, but fled to the already destroyed Dark Realm, and even went directly to the fourth Dark Realm, and entered the 8th era human spaceship into the imperial capital. The pyramid in the middle was where the soul-leaving palace was. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and flew directly toward the pyramid. He was getting closer and closer. After less than a few thousand miles, the pyramid was right in front of him. Then, Yang Dingtian heard Medusa's familiar voice. "Yang Dingtian, it wasn't easy for you to find this place." Then, the color of the golden pyramid suddenly changed and became absolutely transparent. The pyramid was not big, only less than 100 meters. The beautiful Queen Medusa sat on the throne in the center of the pyramid. Yang Dingtian and Queen Medusa finally met face to face. It was really not easy for him. It could be said that he flew across half the planet, and then through the entire diameter of the planet, before he saw Queen Medusa. The pyramid slowly opened, and Yang Dingtian flew directly in. He entered the so-called soul-leaving palace. Chapter 1194. Inside the Pyramid. Finally, Yang Dingtian saw this Medusa face to face. He had thought that he would meet a breathtakingly beautiful woman who would make him lose his soul. But the result, the real Medusa, was almost exactly the same as the statue. From the waist down, she was a snake. Moreover, her long hair was made up of tiny poisonous snakes. Although her face was incomparably beautiful, it was not inferior to Naga Shuang, but a creature with countless small snakes on her head and the lower half of her body as well. No matter how beautiful she was, there was still a sense of horror. "I didn't expect you to really come," Medusa smiled. "Do you need me to meet you in my human form? I realize that you're not used to this form of mine." "No need. You can do it however you like," Yang Dingtian said. Yang Dingtian realized that although he had already entered the pyramid, there was still a barrier between him and Medusa. "Tell me, how did you find this place?" Medusa asked. Yang Dingtian: "I followed the energy signal you sent and came in the opposite direction." Medusa: "That's amazing. I didn't expect you to really find this place." Yang Dingtian: "Just like how the people of the Naga Empire didn't expect you to escape to the fourth dark realm more than 10,000 years ago, right?" "Oh, you call this place the fourth dark realm?" Medusa smiled. "But this place can indeed completely avoid the Naga Empire's search. Because the energy civilization in this area is even more advanced than the Naga Empire. Yang Dingtian. If I'm not wrong, you destroyed the energy body of the Naga Empire and created a huge energy storm that threw you out of the energy field of the Naga Empire and into outer space. That way, you could avoid the abyssal border and come to the fourth dark realm. But at that time, you had the courage to enter the vortex of the fourth dark realm. I'm really impressed, Medusa said. Since he's a fugitive, he naturally dares to go anywhere. Yang Dingtian said. It seems to me that you've been trapped here for many, many years. Have you never gone out, or even been unable to go out? Medusa didn't answer Yang Dingtian. To reach this place, one would need to enter the giant vortex of the fourth dark domain, pass through the vast void, and finally pass through the thick dark matter. Perhaps Medusa had a way to pass through the dark matter. However, to pass through the entire fourth dark realm and reach outer space was not so simple. Yang Dingtian somewhat understood the principle of the Chaos World. It was a planet. You could fly very high in the sky, but under normal circumstances, you would never be able to escape the energy field of this continent, so you could not fly through the various planes at high altitude. Just like on Earth, there was a huge gravitational force. One needed to use the second cosmic speed to escape from Earth's gravitational force. And in the Chaos World, the people who were locked in here were sealed by a kind of energy field. Therefore, an incomparably huge amount of energy was needed to throw people out of the energy field, into outer space, and freely travel between the various planes and continents. And now, although Yang Dingtian had broken through to demigod, with his own ability, he could not break through the energy field of the entire continent in one go. Therefore, a huge amount of external energy was needed. For example, in the ruins of the old Naga Empire, the huge energy storm caused by it threw Queen Hai Xian out of the energy field into outer space. Another example was Yang Dingtian in the giant vortex of the first dark domain. He was thrown out of the energy field by a huge amount of energy, so he could avoid the border of the abyss. However, he did not fly high enough at that time, so he would still hit the thin energy barrier. If he flew higher, the energy barrier would not even be there. Of course, in the third dark domain, Yang Dingtian fell out of the energy field into outer space. That was because the entire third dark domain had turned into endless fog, and the giant vortex in the middle had exhausted all of its energy. Therefore, the third dark domain could no longer support its energy field. It was easy to enter the Chaos World from the fourth dark domain. He just had to enter the giant vortex in the middle. However, it was impossible for them to get out. Because the giant vortex was one way. One could enter, but not leave. After passing through the fourth dark domain, Yang Dingtian also realized that the giant vortex in the middle had disappeared. In its place, there were countless small vortexes. Who knew where these countless small vortexes would lead to? Or even which vortex would tear people to pieces? Therefore, after Medusa escaped to this place, she would never be able to leave again. Then the question was, if Medusa could not leave, then how did her daughter appear in the human countries? Yang Dingtian was about to ask why Shimen Ningning was in the human countries. Don't ask, I won't tell, Medusa said directly. You can read my mind? Yang Dingtian was puzzled. No, reading the mind of one's own kind is a taboo of Medusa. It is also a form of betrayal, Queen Medusa said. You also know that the Naga can only communicate telepathically with their partners. But the question you want to ask is very obvious. And next you want to ask why I have to kill these countless humans, right? Yang Dingtian nodded in acknowledgement. I can't answer you why, Queen Medusa said. Because this is the truth that a chess piece cannot know. I can only tell you that I have to do this. Chess piece, Yang Dingtian could not help but feel angry. Medusa said. You are really an anomaly. You clearly guessed that I can't leave here, so it would be very difficult to kill you. But you came to me instead. Then I will be merciful. Before you die, I will allow you to ask a few questions. Of course, if you can't answer me, I have no comment. Okay, then I will ask the first question. Yang Dingtian. This place is very far away from the human countries. You can't build those soul-leaving palace energy strongholds. And those energy strongholds were not built by the ancient human civilization. Then, may I ask, where did these energy strongholds that can receive your powerful energy signal come from? Who built them? No comment, Medusa said firmly. Second question. Yang Dingtian, your soul-leaving palace did not only give Zhu Qingzhu the soul-devouring mystic chi technique, nor did you give Wentian a bunch of secrets. You also did not only put the greater space technique into High Xian's brain. These can be done with a spiritual illusion. But the soul-leaving palace also let De Gashao take away a child and made the Naga Poisa pregnant, giving birth to the Naga De Gashuang. These can't be done with just the spiritual illusion of the energy stronghold. Also, you have no way of bringing them here. So, how did you do it? Medusa's pupils shrank, revealing a trace of surprise. Then she still said, Sorry, no comment. Yang Dingtian, you are going to kill me. Are you still not going to tell me? Medusa, a chess piece does not deserve to know the truth. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian could not help but be incomparably angry. He sneered and said, Even if you don't tell me, I can still know a thing or two. Either there is not only one soul-leaving palace, but two. Or this place is not the soul-leaving palace at all. Of course, no matter what, you are an important member of the soul-leaving palace. That is for sure. I can't tell you. Medusa restrained her shock and continued speaking indifferently. Yang Dingtian's stomach was full of anger. He had traveled more than 100,000 miles and finally came here. The other party asked him to ask questions, but the answer to every question was no comment. That kind of arrogance, that kind of superiority. Yang Dingtian, if I'm not wrong, the other so-called soul-leaving palace is in the human countries, right? And you still have to take orders from it, right? Medusa said slowly. Yang Dingtian, you humans on Earth have a saying that is very good. It is rare to be confused. The more you know, the more distressed you will be, and the shorter your life will be. If you are content to be a chess piece, then you can enjoy 100 years of glory. In the human countries, whether you are the savior or the emperor, you can enjoy glory and wealth for more than 100 years. After you die of old age, you will transform into the new demon king and be able to summon the wind and rain for another 100 years. But now, the more you know, the more you will die an unnatural death in your 30s. Yang Dingtian, I have another question. You clearly reject new demigods, so why did the soul-leaving palace let the Naga Shuang be born? If you didn't let her be born, how could I have broken through to demigod? Medusa's beautiful face twitched slightly, but she still said indifferently, No comment. Yang Dingtian, you are also under orders. Tell me, who is the person above you? It is definitely not the god of primal chaos, because the so-called god of primal chaos would not directly control this and that. It is a very pure existence. So, the person above you should be the so-called fake god, right? If I am not wrong, Wentian and I were sent from Earth to this world by it. No comment. Medusa continued indifferently. Okay, are you done asking? Yang Dingtian, you didn't answer any of the questions I asked. Is there any meaning in me asking? Medusa, who told you to ask questions that are taboo? Do you have any other questions? No, it is useless to ask. Yang Dingtian, okay. Medusa, I know that you have just broken through to demigod, and your heart is filled with confidence and arrogance. Since you came here and think that you can kill me, I will give you a chance. Make the first move, and I will give you a chance to stop me. Swoosh! Then, the energy barrier between Yang Dingtian and Medusa disappeared. There was no longer any obstacle between the two of them. If you have any tricks, use them. Medusa smiled. Let me see what kind of power a small human like you has. Okay, then I will accept your offer. Yang Dingtian. Swoosh. Instantly, his primal Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword shot out from his spatial ring. The technique he used was not Yang Dingtian's technique, but the Emperor of Naga's Great Judgment technique. Chapter 1195. Medusa let Yang Dingtian make the first move, saying that she was giving him a chance to use his mad dog bark. Yang Dingtian did not hold back. The soul sword shot out like a bolt of lightning. The Emperor of Naga in the soul sword instantly used up all the energy in the soul sword to perform the Naga Emperor's Great Judgment Technique. What was the Great Judgment Technique? This was a technique unique to the Emperor of Naga Empire. Any subject of the Naga Empire had signed an energy contract from the depths of their soul and body. They were completely unable to resist the Great Judgment Technique. This was to ensure that the Emperor of Naga Empire had the power to judge and punish his subjects. Therefore, this was almost the only technique that was fatal to the entire Naga race. Therefore, rather than calling it a technique, it was more like a contract. At present, whether it was Yang Dingtian, Naga Shuang, or even the soul of the Emperor of Naga and the chi of the soul sword, none of them could do anything to Queen Medusa. In fact, the combined energy of the four sides was not even 1/10 of Queen Medusa's. They could not even break through her defense. The Great Judgment Technique was the only effective attack against Medusa now. Although the energy of this attack was not even 1% of Medusa's cultivation. However, at least Medusa could not defend herself and had to bear the full brunt of this energy. Of course, to Medusa, this Great Judgment spell was just like a mosquito bite to a human. It was not painful at all. However, with the addition of the fossilizing fluid, it was completely different. The fossilizing fluid was fatal to any Naga, but Yang Dingtian could not get it into Medusa's body no matter what. However, the Great Judgment Technique could break through her defense. When the two were combined, it was the most lethal attack, and the only effective attack. Swoosh! The Great Judgment Technique sounded very impressive, but on the screen, there was only a flash of golden light. Moreover, it was not a very dazzling golden light. Instead, it was as if the clouds in the sky were torn apart, and the sun was slanted, and a golden dust sprinkled down. Then, the golden dust penetrated into Queen Medusa's body. The whole process was very fast. It was completed in less than 0.1 seconds. All the chi energy in the soul sword sea soul crystal was mixed with all the fossilizing fluid and sprinkled down. As expected, no Naga could resist the Great Judgment Technique. When the incomparably powerful Queen Medusa was sprinkled by the dust, it was as if she was frozen in time. Then, she lost all her reaction. Her entire expression to her eyes completely. Then, inch by inch, she turned into a fossil. In less than a minute, she had turned of the stone. It was exactly the same as what Yang Dingtian saw in the illusion realm. For a long time, it was to be expected of Medusa's. Of course. Of her. Yang Dingtian had a surreal feeling in his heart. Then, he could not help but reach out to touch the sculpture, afraid that it was just an illusion. What he touched was indeed a cold fossilized sculpture. He heaved a long sigh of relief. Queen Medusa was so powerful. In the current chaotic world, she was either the first or the second. Just like that, she was easily destroyed. Shuang, Queen Medusa has been destroyed, Yang Dingtian said. Really? That's too easy, Naga Shuang said. She didn't resist at all? Yang Dingtian said. I used the Great Judgment Technique and the fossilizing fluid. She was frozen immediately. She didn't resist at all, Naga Shuang said. That's good. Then, Yang Dingtian continued to explore and observe the pyramid. Even though this was the 8th era's spaceship in the capital. However, it was different from the sci-fi movies Yang Dingtian had seen. There were no buttons in the pyramid's cockpit. It was completely controlled by sitting in the seat. At this time, the voice of the Emperor of Naga sounded in Yang Dingtian's heart. What's the result? Yang Dingtian said. Your Majesty, Medusa has been turned into a fossil. Can't you see it? The Emperor of Naga said. I'm in the soul sword. Of course, I can't see if the soul sword has eyes. I can only sense your state of mind, and it's vague. That was indeed the case. Everything had happened very quickly. Moreover, for fear of being discovered by Medusa, the Emperor of Naga's soul had been hiding in the soul sword, and the soul sword was in the space ring. The Emperor of Naga had been waiting for Yang Dingtian's orders. As long as he ordered the soul sword to attack, the Emperor of Naga would immediately use the Great Judgment technique. Hearing that Medusa had been turned into a fossil, the Emperor of Naga immediately came out of the Chaos Emperor grade soul sword. Boom! In an instant, a golden light filled the entire pyramid. A golden image of Naga that looked very much like a dragon floated in the air. Looking at the fossilized Medusa, the Emperor of Naga's soul had a complicated look in its eyes and sighed softly. It's a pity that I didn't have time to ask her why she betrayed the Naga Empire. Why did she betray us? The Emperor of Naga said. Then, it flew up and tightly wrapped around the statue of Medusa. It was as if it was performing some kind of Naga ritual. At this time, the Naga Shuang's voice suddenly sounded in Yang Dingtian's heart. Husband, go, go, go! Medusa is a trick. The killing array of Medusa in the human countries is still there. Instantly, Yang Dingtian's hair stood on end. In just a short time, the Naga Shuang had used a special method to detect whether the killing array of Medusa was still there. If it was still there, and there was residual energy, it proved that the energy of Medusa was still there. In the end, the killing array of Medusa was still there, so, at this time, the Emperor of Naga's soul suddenly let out a shocking roar. Human, run, run! Yang Dingtian immediately turned around, turned into a stream of light, and rushed out crazily. He didn't even look at what had happened and fled as fast as he could. In the pyramid, only the fossilized statue of Medusa was seen, and it was suddenly smashed into pieces. Then, in a place of nothingness in the pyramid, a figure suddenly flashed out. It was the peerless beauty of the Queen of Medusa. She walked slowly towards the soul of the Emperor of Naga and said slowly, Your Majesty, when I knew that Yang Dingtian had a demon core of Naga royalty, I thought that it might be you. I knew that your soul exists because of me. Even if more than 10,000 years have passed, you still want to kill me. It turned out that the Emperor of the Naga Empire was called Jialan. However, he was clearly golden in color, but there was a blue in his name. The Emperor of Naga's soul said in pain, Because you betrayed the Naga Empire. Among the 13 royal families, your divine dragon bloodline is the highest, but whether it is power, scheming, or even cultivation, you are not the highest. Medusa said, But because you are the most harmonious among the 13 royal families, we elected you as the Emperor of the Naga Empire. In the past, when we were in the Naga Empire, we were like brothers. But today, I have to kill you. I am very sorry, Brother Jialan. Then, Queen Medusa, bit by bit, used her spiritual power to tear the soul of the Emperor of Naga into pieces. Why? In the incomparably complicated emotions and eyes, the soul of the Emperor of Naga, Jialan, was stripped alive by Medusa. In the end, it turned into ashes. Because now, the soul of the Emperor of Naga only had 1% of the energy when it was strong, or even 1,000th of the energy. How could he defeat Medusa at her peak? Both of them were Naga royalty, but Medusa and the Emperor of Naga were not much different in terms of cultivation from more than 10,000 years ago. Meanwhile, Yang Dingtian, who had just escaped, was frozen in place before he could even fly out a few thousand meters. His energy C and Xian meridians were fine, but his spiritual power and consciousness were instantly frozen. For the time being, he had lost any control over his entire body. Medusa opened her lily-white hand and sucked Yang Dingtian in front of her. Then, Yang Dingtian regained his ability to move. Just now, when you turned into a fossil, it was you who created the illusion? Yang Dingtian asked. Medusa said, No, it was a fossil statue. When it talked to you, it was an illusion I created. When it turned into a fossil, it was real. So when you touched it, it was a real fossil. You can think of it as a clone of me. Yang Dingtian's face suddenly twitched, and said, I knew it, Queen Medusa was not so easy to destroy. You guessed that I would let the Emperor of Naga use the Great Judgment art and the fossil liquid? Medusa said, It was not a guess, but I was worried about this, so I had to take precautions. Yang Dingtian said, It's fine if I didn't find out, But why didn't the Emperor of Naga think of this? Medusa said. Human, the Emperor of Naga is not only the most outstanding Naga. After becoming the Emperor of Naga, you will lose a lot of time to cultivate. So, among the 13 royal families, the Emperor of Naga is more mediocre. And most importantly, the Emperor of Kalan once wanted to become my partner, but I refused. Yang Dingtian sighed and said, I understand. The Emperor of Naga only wanted to complete this mission, to fulfill his duty. He was not willing to think about other things. Killing Medusa was a duty that he had to complete. Yang Dingtian said, Now that your real body is in front of me, can you answer my previous question? And the Emperor of Naga has been killed by you. Medusa said, Sorry, I can't tell you, a pawn does not deserve to know too much. It was still the same high and mighty words. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, Okay, I admit defeat. What are you going to do with me? You should know that unless you have the fossil liquid to turn me into a fossil, you won't be able to kill me. Otherwise, you probably won't be able to kill me. Naga Duga Shuang and I share life. Medusa smiled and said, Who said I was going to kill you? Yang Dingtian said, You said it just now. Medusa smiled and said, It was just my clone, I won't kill you now. Yang Dingtian was puzzled. Medusa won't kill me? Then what does she want? What do you want? Yang Dingtian asked. Medusa said, You will soon see what I want to do to you, Yang Dingtian little human. Chapter 1196. Medusa would not kill Yang Dingtian. Moreover, because Yang Dingtian and the Naga Shuang shared life, she could not kill Yang Dingtian either. Therefore, Yang Dingtian was very curious about how Medusa would deal with him. The result came out very quickly. Queen Medusa directly lifted Yang Dingtian by the neck and flew out of the pyramid. After flying through a void, they melted the thick dark matter and continued to fly forward. After passing through more than a few thousand miles of dark matter, they arrived at an endless void. This should be the core of the chaotic world. It was really strange. Although what exactly was inside the earth was a huge mystery, most scientists believed that it should be liquid metal. The core of the earth should be ancient. And the core of this chaotic world planet was actually empty of nothingness. This was too strange. It was completely different from Yang Dingtian's understanding of the planet. However, at this time, the geographical environment of the chaotic world planet was no longer important. Because this place might not even be in the same universe as the Earth. What he should be concerned about now was how Medusa planned to deal with him. Medusa flew very fast, even faster than Yang Dingtian. After a few hours, they flew through tens of thousands of miles of void. In front of them was the fourth dark realm. Countless dark vortexes densely packed together. At this time, Yang Dingtian had a more general calculation. The area of this fourth dark realm seemed to be larger than the first, second, and third dark realms, or even the sum of the three. Yang Dingtian knew how Medusa planned to deal with him. Human chess piece, I can't kill you, so I'll throw you into these countless vortexes. Queen Medusa said. In this way, you will be constantly torn apart, and then reborn again. Your energy, the energy of the Naga Duga Shuang, will be completely consumed by these countless vortexes. Therefore, Naga will definitely regret joining with you. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian could not help but feel a chill in his heart. This was even scarier than being killed. Medusa wanted to make him suffer a fate worse than death. Let yourself die over and over again. Furthermore, the Naga Shuang would be completely crippled and lose all of its energy. This was because Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang shared life force and energy. Therefore, as long as Naga Shuang was alive, Yang Dingtian would never die. However, the energy of the fourth vortex would destroy Yang Dingtian's body over and over again, causing him to die over and over again. The shared energy of the Naga Shuang would allow Yang Dingtian to come back to life again and again. If this cycle continued, Naga Shuang's energy would be completely depleted. She would not be able to accumulate any more energy. Her cultivation would drop from demigod to that of an ordinary beauty. she would not be much better off than a powerless woman. Medusa lifted Yang Dingtian by the neck and came to the vortex of the fourth dark domain. She said in a raspy voice, "After your Naga partner is crippled, I only need to give Shimin Ningning a little bit of energy, and it will be enough to slaughter all humans." With that, Queen Medusa threw him. She threw Yang Dingtian directly into the bottomless vortex of the fourth dark domain. Without any luck or accident, Yang Dingtian let out an incomparably shrill scream. It was a scream that only the Naga Shuang could hear. The energy of the vortex of the fourth dark domain was extremely shocking. After the destruction of the Naga Empire, it left behind a terrible ruin that was constantly changing and tearing apart. Countless energy storms rose and fell one after another. The fourth dark domain was the product of the destruction of the energy civilization of the Eighth Era. The civilization of the Eighth Era was much, much more powerful than the Naga Empire. The entire world had countless energy fields. Almost every energy field was more powerful than n number of nuclear bombs. Once this world was destroyed, all the energy fields would instantly fall into chaos. All life in this world would be strangled. Only countless energy vortexes were left. The energy of each vortex was enormous. After Yang Dingtian was sucked into the vortex, it was like an animal being sucked into an airplane engine. He watched as his flesh and blood, his demigod body, was torn apart inch by inch and peeled off. In extreme pain, Yang Dingtian lost all of his skin, then all of his flesh. Finally, all of his bones and internal organs were gone. Finally, his xian veins were torn apart. His entire brain and head were completely crushed. In less than half a minute, Yang Dingtian was completely smashed into pieces. In this half a minute, Yang Dingtian had passed through countless vortexes. After entering a vortex, he didn't know where he would be sucked into. It was like going from one vortex to another. In the end, when the vortex was about to destroy Yang Dingtian's soul and energy reserve, the energy of the Naga Duga Shuang poured into Yang Dingtian's energy reserve. Then, the energy reserve began to spread and reconstruct Yang Dingtian's xian veins and body. However, the vortex continued to destroy everything about Yang Dingtian. As a result, the energy of the Naga Duga Shuang was constantly consumed in an attempt to reconstruct Yang Dingtian's demigod body. However, before the 3-inch xian veins could be reconstructed, they were completely destroyed. No! The Naga Duga Shuang, who was sitting on the dark throne, felt the energy in her body rapidly depleting. She immediately let out an extremely painful scream. Then, she desperately devoured the xian energy from the dark throne. She didn't want to cultivate xian energy, but battle xian energy. However, her energy was still depleting rapidly. She couldn't stop it at all. Before meeting Medusa, the Naga Duga Shuang had actually thought of such an ending. However, between her and Yang Dingtian, this couple, she had violated morality because of her. Therefore, she was already the weaker party. Especially because of Yang Dingtian, she had broken through to the demigod level. Therefore, the right to speak between them was on Yang Dingtian's side. Therefore, even though the Naga Duga Shuang had foreseen this scene, she was completely powerless to stop it from happening. Because she couldn't persuade Yang Dingtian. Especially when Yang Dingtian used his moral superiority to suppress her, she had even less right to speak. If it had been before, she could have just cut him in two and left. But now, the two of them had become one. They shared life and everything. Naturally, they had to bear the most terrible consequences together. Now, the most terrible consequences had occurred. However, the Naga Duga Shuang didn't regret it. Of course, this wasn't entirely because of love. It was because the Naga were a proud race. Once they made a choice, they wouldn't regret it, no matter how serious the consequences were. Regret was the behavior of the weak. Yes, regret was the behavior of the weak. So, did Yang Dingtian regret it now? He wasn't dead, and he couldn't die. In fact, he couldn't even feel pain now. All he had left was his energy reserve and his soul. Even his heart and mystic meridians were gone. He couldn't feel the physical pain, but the psychological pain was endless. because he had dragged the Naga Duga down. Time continued to pass. In just a few hours, Yang Dingtian had passed through countless vortexes and been crushed by countless of them. The energy in the Naga Duga Shuang's body had been completely depleted. She desperately devoured the energy of the Empire of Darkness. However, the energy she devoured was just enough to preserve Yang Dingtian's energy reserve and soul. There was nothing left of him. In fact, the Naga Duga Shuang didn't even have enough energy to transform back into her Naga form. She couldn't even leave the throne of darkness for a second. She was trapped to death on top of it. Right now, she had completely become a powerless beauty. Even a martial ancestor realm expert could do whatever they wanted to her. If he had the chance to do it all over again, would Yang Dingtian still make the same choice? Would he still fly across half of the chaotic world planet, pass through the Earth's core, and arrive at Medusa's pyramid? Yang Dingtian thought about it again and again. He would still do it. That's right, he would still do it. Because if he didn't do it, there was no way he could defeat Medusa. The choice he had made earlier was already an opportunity to eliminate Medusa. Shuanger, I'm sorry, Yang Dingtian said in his heart. It's okay, husband, the Naga Duga Shuang said. To be honest, in this desperate and painful situation, I can actually understand your choice and feel a little proud. The Naga Duga Shuang wasn't lying. Her greed for energy was eternal. She would always be snobbish. But now that she had lost all her energy, and was facing Yang Dingtian in complete despair, she could clearly feel Yang Dingtian's state of mind. Sacrifice was truly a great state of mind. This was a kind of spiritual strength. Yang Dingtian rationally thought about it over and over again, and in the end, he still didn't regret his choice. Even if his choice seemed to be suicide. But this wasn't a stupid thing. It was just that the operation had failed. Time passed day by day. Yang Dingtian's soul was still shuttling through countless vortexes. During this period of time, the two of them couldn't do anything, nor could they do anything. The Naga Duga Shuang instinctively devoured the energy of the Throne of Darkness at every moment, and then supplied it to Yang Dingtian's energy reserve and soul life. The Naga Duga Shuang entered the depths of Yang Dingtian's mind and found the movies and TV series he had watched. Then, she sorted them out. The two of them watched movies and TV series in his mind. Just like that, they quietly watched the movies. Yang Dingtian had forgotten many of the movies. But they were still engraved in Yang Dingtian's mind. It was just that they were placed in unimportant positions, and Yang Dingtian couldn't remember them at once. Now, the Naga Duga Shuang sorted them out and replayed them. Yang Dingtian was equivalent to revisiting the old and learning new things. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian asked one day, Shuanger, I've passed through countless energy vortexes. Now you're barely maintaining my life with the energy from the Throne of Darkness. What if I'm suddenly sucked in by a huge energy vortex and destroyed? What will happen then? The Naga Duga Shuang said indifferently. I won't be able to support the energy from the Throne of Darkness anymore. So your energy reserve will be destroyed. Then we'll enter a new equilibrium. I can only protect your soul. Of course, if the energy vortex is bigger, it will exceed my energy supply. Then, your soul will be destroyed and you'll die completely. Yang Dingtian trembled and said, If I die, what about you? The Naga Duga Shuang said. When the energy from me and the Throne of Darkness is insufficient to support your life, my body will turn into energy to supply you. Then, my Xian veins, my energy reserve, and my soul will. In the end, if none of them can support us, we'll die together. Yang Dingtian didn't ask. Wasn't the body of a demigod immortal and indestructible? The evil spirits of the primordial era weren't immortal and indestructible. In fact, immortality and indestructibility were only relative. When the energy exceeded a certain level, everything would die, including gods and the universe. Suddenly Yang Dingtian said, Shuanger, then let's wait for death. Because there's an incomparably huge vortex ahead. I can feel its existence. Me too, the Naga Duga Shuang said. Then let's die together. Chapter 1197. That's right, there was a huge energy vortex in front of them. Of course, Yang Dingtian couldn't see it, but he could clearly feel it. Because all the energy vortexes were converging in that direction. This was a very, very huge energy vortex, one that was completely destructive. It was far beyond what Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang could bear. Therefore, they were basically doomed. In the face of death, Naga Shuang was even calmer than Yang Dingtian. She was still watching a movie in Yang Dingtian's mind, and it was The Lord of the Rings. She didn't even pause the movie. The war scenes in this movie, or the battle between the strong, are certainly incredible for humans on Earth, but it's not worth mentioning for Naga. Why do you still enjoy it? Yang Dingtian asked. Naga Shuang said, Put yourself in the shoes of a human, into your world, and forget that you're a Naga. At this time, the two of them were watching the orc army besieging the human capital, and the Rohirrim cavalry charging at the orc army. At this time, Yang Dingtian could clearly feel that the huge vortex was getting closer and closer. Sigh, it's a pity that we can't see the end, Yang Dingtian said. It doesn't matter. You can imagine the ending of this kind of movie with a chrysanthemum, Naga Shuang said. The main theme of Hollywood blockbusters is always like this. As soon as she said this, Yang Dingtian felt very strange. However, Naga Shuang did have the right to say this, because she had watched almost all the Hollywood movies in Yang Dingtian's mind. Suddenly Medusa said, Honey, what do you think that huge vortex in front of us is? Could it be the vortex that runs through the fourth dark realm? If that's the case, can you go back the way you came? Not only will you not die, but you can also leave this damn place? Yang Dingtian said. If that's the case, that's great. However, I don't dare to hope for my luck anymore. After all, I'm no longer the child of destiny of the god of chaos. I've already started to disobey him, Naga Shuang said. Maybe you're that lucky. Yang Dingtian. All right then, let's wait and see if we're that lucky. Then, the two of them quieted down and waited for the results. The result was soon revealed. That was because the unprecedentedly huge vortex was right in front of them. Whoosh! Yang Dingtian's soul and Qi were instantly drawn in. If he was lucky enough, this would be the vortex that pierced through the fourth dark domain, and could even eject Yang Dingtian out of the fourth dark domain. And if he wasn't lucky enough, that was to be completely crushed and turned into ashes. He and Naga Shuang died together. The results were revealed. Yang Dingtian wasn't lucky enough. This was a destructive vortex, not an escape vortex. It easily destroyed the energy protection provided by Naga Shuang and directly tore open Yang Dingtian's Qi. It was as easy as blowing off dust. It was about to completely crush Yang Dingtian's Qi and his soul. In about a second and a half, Yang Dingtian would die. The whole process went something like this. After tearing open the wall of Yang Dingtian's Qi, Yang Dingtian's Qi would completely explode. However, it would definitely be completely crushed before it could explode. Then, it began to destroy Yang Dingtian's soul. Why was the soul last? Because demigods would protect their souls with their bodies and all their energy. The soul was the most fragile part of the body. Of course, when Yang Dingtian's soul was destroyed, Naga Shuang's body would begin to disappear and turn into energy to protect his soul. Then, Naga Shuang would lose her body and Qi. In the end, both of their souls would be turned into ashes. The whole process took a little more than a second. Death was destined to come. Yang Dingtian really wasn't lucky enough. Naga Shuang was still as calm as ever. Yang Dingtian, on the other hand, was filled with infinite reluctance. Sigh, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Even if he was unwilling, Yang Dingtian could only sigh and wait for anything to happen. Boom! Just as the huge vortex began to destroy Yang Dingtian's Qi, the greediest and most powerful species finally couldn't take it anymore. Roar! The dark green dragon that occupied the abyss of Yang Dingtian's Qi suddenly roared and stretched out its incomparably huge body from Yang Dingtian's Qi. It swallowed all the energy swept by the dark vortex, swallowed and swallowed, It was very, very excited, but also very, very scared. It was excited because it was swallowing an endless amount of energy. It was countless times the sum of all the energy it had swallowed before. It was scared because there was too much energy. Of course, it wasn't scared. To it, the more energy, the better, even if it wasn't very useful. However, Yang Dingtian's qi was still too small. Once it swallowed too much energy and exceeded its limit, Yang Dingtian's qi would directly explode. In that case, the black dragon that lost its host would dissipate in the air and turn into countless dragon energy particles. And the next chance of reincarnation would be next to nothing. In fact, the black dragon had already woken up. Previously, because Yang Dingtian's qi was too small to accommodate it, it had no choice but to sleep in the abyss of Yang Dingtian's qi universe. However, ever since Yang Dingtian broke through to demigod, his qi had expanded many times and could now accommodate it. Therefore, the original dark colossal dragon no longer needed to sleep in the abyss. However, it deliberately didn't wake up and didn't appear. Because once it appeared, Yang Dingtian, the host, would make such and such requests. Therefore, it remained silent. It watched as Yang Dingtian grew stronger, stronger, and stronger. Anyway, the meat was rotting in the pot. The energy that Yang Dingtian swallowed in his qi would eventually belong to it. Once it had devoured enough special energy, it would be able to tear apart Yang Dingtian's qi vessel like a butterfly breaking out of its cocoon on Earth. It would then devour Yang Dingtian's qi vessel cleanly and rush out from Yang Dingtian's small qi vessel universe. But now, it could no longer pretend to be asleep. If Yang Dingtian's qi exploded, it would lose its place of residence. Therefore, the black dragon desperately swallowed, and swallowed. It was completely between hell and heaven. The black dragon's greed for energy was countless times greater than that of the Naga. Such a powerful whirlpool of energy was devoured by it without leaving a single drop behind. Therefore, not only was Yang Dingtian's qi not destroyed, but his profound veins also grew inch by inch. Then, the skeleton and body began to grow back inch by inch. In the end, Yang Dingtian was completely restored. Because the black dragon had absorbed all of the energy attacks from the whirlpool. Therefore, the energy that the Naga Shuang devoured was able to continuously restore Yang Dingtian's body. Was this a case of putting oneself in a hopeless situation? At this time, Yang Dingtian and the Naga Shuang let out a long sigh of relief. This incomparably greedy black dragon had finally appeared and stopped pretending to be dead. In fact, before entering the whirlpool of darkness, Yang Dingtian had thought that the black dragon would definitely appear. Now, it was a matter of life and death. But who would have thought that the black dragon would turn a deaf ear to Yang Dingtian's body and profound veins, as if nothing had happened? It only appeared when the qi was about to explode and it was about to lose its place of residence. The black dragon was still swallowing. Its body grew bigger and bigger. It had already exceeded several hundred kilometers, and then several thousand kilometers. Soon, it had surpassed the space in Yang Dingtian's qi. If it continued to devour, Yang Dingtian's qi was very likely to explode. The amount of energy that it had devoured this time was tens or hundreds of times more than the energy that it had devoured before. However, the black dragon didn't really need this energy. Right now, it didn't lack this kind of ordinary energy. What it needed was the energy of the black hole, the energy that was unique to Naga. Only these two types of energy could shape its body and allow it to grow. There was a very, very powerful darkness mystic flame in Yang Dingtian's body. The black dragon was completely drooling, but it held back because Yang Dingtian needed this darkness mystic flame. Everything in Yang Dingtian's qi belonged to the dark colossal dragon. The meat was already in the pot, and there was no hurry. Can't devour any more, it's going to explode. The black dragon roared. However, once it stopped devouring, the huge whirlpool would completely destroy Yang Dingtian's qi within 2 seconds. Therefore, the black dragon was almost scared out of its wits. If it didn't devour, it would be waiting for death. If it devoured, it would be courting death. Yang Dingtian's Qi had really reached its limit. The entire Qi was completely occupied by the black dragon. This black dragon was so big that it was boundless. Its terrifying body was completely squeezed together. There were 3 more seconds. Devour for 3 more seconds. Yang Dingtian's Qi was about to completely explode. 3, 2, whoosh! Maybe the black dragon was lucky enough. Or maybe Yang Dingtian was lucky enough. Just as the Qi was about to explode and the black dragon was about to turn into ashes, Yang Dingtian's body suddenly rushed out of the huge whirlpool. 1 person, 1 naga, 1 dragon. The 3 lives were saved. Yang Dingtian, remember, this is the 3rd time I've saved you. The black dragon roared. No, you're not saving me, you're saving yourself. Yang Dingtian sneered. Roar! The black dragon roared furiously and made up its mind. Once it devoured enough special energy and fully grew, it would definitely devour Yang Dingtian and Naga as its final nutrients. Black dragon, how about we make a deal? Yang Dingtian suddenly said with a smile. Chapter 1198. Deal? No, we won't make any deals, the dark dragon said firmly. Yang Dingtian, don't tell me you don't even want the dark energy anymore? The dark dragon sneered in its heart. Dark energy, the dark mystic flame in your energy reserve is a huge source of dark energy, but I didn't swallow it. Unless there are so many mountains and so many seas of dark energy, otherwise, it can only be a joke. The dark dragon said, you can't even protect yourself now. You can't even go out, let alone talk about the black hole energy. Yang Dingtian, that's why you have to help me get out. It's best if you help me kill Medusa. Then I'll give you an astronomical amount of black hole energy. The dark dragon continued to sneer. Human, if we encounter a slightly larger energy vortex now, we're all dead. Your sea of Qi has already reached its limit, so give up. I won't make any deal with a mere human like you. Then, the dark dragon sank directly into the universe abyss of Yang Dingtian's energy reserve and continued to sleep. I'll continue to sleep. You don't have to wake me up. Even if you're going to be killed, don't wake me up because I can't save you. The dark dragon said one last time and then went completely silent. No matter how Yang Dingtian shouted, there was no response. Yang Dingtian was helpless. This dark dragon was even colder and more ruthless than Medusa. If it wasn't living in Yang Dingtian's energy reserve, it wouldn't care about his life or death at all. It was a fool's dream to ask it for help. Huff, huff, huff. After Yang Dingtian was thrown out of that enormous energy whirlpool, his surroundings were actually completely empty. There was nothing around him at all. Husband, the place you're in now should be a temporary vacuum of calm, Naga Shuang explained. Because the energy vortex just now was so big that it swallowed all the other vortexes in the surrounding area. That's why this calm vacuum was formed behind it. Although the analogy is not appropriate, it is somewhat similar to your Earth's ship. After it is silent in the depths of the sea, one or several air pockets will appear in the ship. There is no water in the air pockets. I understand, Yang Dingtian said. Then, how long can this calm vacuum exist? Naga Shuang said. That depends on whether the balance is broken or not. If it is not broken, then it will always exist. Once it's broken, it can disappear at any time. Yang Dingtian was also very clear about this theory during the shipwreck incident. Within the golden 48 hours, the hull of the ship would not be cut. He was worried that it would destroy the Qi acupoints inside and cause the survivors to die. Because these Qi acupoints were extremely fragile, they would be destroyed with the slightest impact. Yang Dingtian floated quietly in this calm vacuum. There was no energy or harm around him. It was very peaceful. He did not even dare to fly too fast because the energy environment here was very fragile. If Yang Dingtian flew too fast, he might destroy this extremely fragile balance of the vacuum. Of course, some people might say that they should take advantage of this rare calm to get out quickly. That would be pure wishful thinking. The entire fourth dark realm was a space that spanned hundreds of thousands of miles. There were countless energy vortexes inside. Once Yang Dingtian entered an energy vortex, he would not be able to control himself and would be crushed to pieces. It would be impossible for him to get out. In fact, Yang Dingtian did not even know where he was now. "Husband, this calm vacuum is not small. It should have existed for many, many years," Naga Shuang said. "Go and check it out. Perhaps there are still things left behind by the ancient civilization." "Okay." Yang Dingtian then carefully floated and flew, observing everything around him. Because there was absolute darkness here, his vision was completely zero. Moreover, Yang Dingtian could not release his celestial qi or the wraiths of the million spirit demon fire to search. He could only use the stupidest method, which was to take out a glowing cold crystal and search bit by bit. In terms of illumination, the hot crystal was actually much brighter, but Yang Dingtian did not dare to take it out. That was because the amount of energy it released while illuminating the area was too great. The cold crystal's glowing principle was almost similar to that of a firefly, and the energy it released was almost negligible. Holding the cold crystal, Yang Dingtian slowly floated and searched bit by bit. This calm vacuum wasn't small. Yang Dingtian had been flying carefully, and had already searched every inch of space within 100 miles, but there wasn't anything inside. Yang Dingtian was not willing to give up and continued to search. A few hours passed. A day passed. 2 days passed. The area that Yang Dingtian searched had already exceeded a few hundred miles. However, he still did not find anything. However, this calm vacuum was really big. Yang Dingtian had been flying for a few days, but he still did not reach the border. However, no matter how big it was not worth mentioning in the fourth dark realm. The fourth dark realm originally covered more than 100,000 miles. After the great expansion after the destruction, it was completely boundless. Was Yang Dingtian lucky to be swept into this calm vacuum? It should not be lucky, but inevitable. Because if one entered the fourth dark realm from that whirlpool, one would definitely be sucked into the whirlpool. Once sucked in, one would definitely die. And Yang Dingtian was lucky to survive because of the dark dragon in his sea of qi. And as long as one survived the whirlpool, they would enter the calm vacuum. In the fourth dark realm, although there weren't many of them, they weren't few either. There were at least a few hundred of them. Yang Dingtian continued to search inch by inch. He was very anxious now, but also very calm. Because Medusa thought that after killing him and Naga Shuang, she probably would not immediately control Shimen Ningning to slaughter the rest of the humans. Just like that, Yang Dingtian continued to search slowly, without the slightest bit of impatience, for fear of destroying the calm vacuum. Then one day, suddenly, in front of him, a huge object blocked his way. Yang Dingtian's heart jumped, and then a burst of ecstasy surged. The illumination range of the cold light crystal was too small. Yang Dingtian only discovered this big thing when it was only a few dozen meters away. It was a pyramid, or a pyramid-shaped thing. It was about a few hundred meters high. It looked almost exactly the same as the pyramid Medusa was in. Yang Dingtian knew that this was the cockpit of the 8th era human civilization. Its incomparably huge body had been completely destroyed, becoming part of countless energy whirlpools. And this pyramid cockpit was very lucky to be floating in the calm vacuum, and was preserved. Suppressing his excitement, Yang Dingtian carefully searched along the pyramid cockpit, trying to find the entrance. From the looks of it, it was a complete triangle. There were no gaps, and it was pitch black. Yang Dingtian searched around the huge triangular pyramid that was a few hundred meters in size, but he still couldn't find any entrance. He couldn't cut it with the mystic fire, nor could he use the soul's sword. "Husband, use the primeval Naga's eye gem," Schwanger suddenly said. Yang Dingtian was stunned. "But the primeval Naga's eye gem can melt dark matter." "It's not dark matter, is it?" Naga Shuang said. "You've been to the 8th dark realm, so you should know that dark matter has many forms. Moreover, any energy shield will use dark matter. In the middle and later stages, that energy civilization can't leave dark matter at all." Schwanger was right, but Yang Dingtian was dogmatic. So, Yang Dingtian took out the primeval Naga's eye gem from his spatial ring and approached the pyramid cockpit. Whoosh! Sure enough, the pyramid cockpit, which had no gaps, melted into a hole silently. Then, Yang Dingtian easily got in. Then, the hole quietly recovered and was once again intact. "Husband, you can use the flame to illuminate now," Naga Shuang said. "This pyramid can block any energy overflow." Yang Dingtian used his mystic qi to light up a pure flame. The flame was very bright, instantly illuminating the entire space inside the pyramid. Yang Dingtian saw clearly that there was nothing in the entire space except for a chair floating in the middle. This chair was exactly the same as Medusa's pyramid chair. At this moment, the chair's back was facing Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian flew around and came to the front of the chair. Immediately, Yang Dingtian was shocked. Because there was another person sitting on the chair. A human of the 8th era, bald, with big eyes, a big head, and slender limbs. Almost every part of him looked the same as a human. However, his skin, eyes, and proportions were different from the later humans. Therefore, at first glance, he looked like a monster. Yang Dingtian really didn't expect that he would actually meet a real 8th era human. It was too terrifying. He approached carefully. If this 8th era human was still alive, then Yang Dingtian would be in danger. Because he could control the pyramid to attack Yang Dingtian. Flying in front of the chair, Yang Dingtian carefully looked at the 8th era human. Although his eyes were open, he did not move. Yang Dingtian carefully touched his body. Whoosh! Immediately, the place where Yang Dingtian touched directly turned to ashes. Then, like dominoes, the body of the 8th era human completely collapsed and turned into powder. He had been dead for a very, very long time. Perhaps hundreds of thousands of years, perhaps millions of years, or even longer. However, there was an absolute vacuum here, so the body would not rot. But because it had been too long, the composition of this human body had completely exceeded the decay period and directly turned to powder. At the same time, the entire pyramid suddenly lit up. It became transparent and as bright as day. Then, a special voice sounded in Yang Dingtian's mind. "This ship has lost its commander and pilot. It has become a masterless ship." Of course, it was not speaking Chinese, nor was it speaking the common language of the Chaos Realm. In fact, it was not even any language. Because it directly transmitted energy fluctuations and consciousness, there was no need to speak at all. Therefore, there was no need for language or words. At this moment, Naga Shuang suddenly said, "Husband, try sitting on it." Yang Dingtian was stunned. Naga Shuang said, "After Wentian discovered the ruins of the Empire of Darkness, why was he able to have the highest control of the Throne of Darkness? It was because he had human genes in his body. Therefore, the masterless Skirich Imperial Capital automatically recognized him as the highest commander. Once he encounters something more similar to the 8th era human, Wentian's highest command will automatically lose it." Yang Dingtian was stunned. This made sense. Therefore, he took a deep breath and directly sat on the command seat of this pyramid. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.